Former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personality of all time.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. We are live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, and we are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook. Download their app today and use promo code THEGAME. Day 3 of SEC Media Days. We're here at the Grand Hyatt in downtown Nashville. Our 102.5 and 106.3 The Game SEC Media coverage is sponsored by Volunteer Hose and Gasket and Mercedes-Benz of Music City. We heard from Nick Saban earlier today. Willy D-Mase, how we doing?
Doing good, other than the rain, but
I know, gross day
no
today.
hiccups coming here to the Grand Hyatt, so parking was great. So I'm good. I'm fine.
Good day.
Yeah, I'm fine. I got my coffee, so I'm ready.
Willy Donick joins us from Atlanta, who saw a pretty cool baseball game last night. How we doing, Willy?
I did. Guys, I am coming at you from Atlanta, my good friend Bruce Elder's house here. No relation to Bryce Elder, who was the unfortunate starting pitcher last night for the Braves in that absolute wild 16-13 game that we got a chance to see last night. My son's playing in the Perfect Game tournament that's going on down here in the Atlanta area. So great crowd on hand, but, man, they were treated to a show, just a bunch of fireworks. It was just amazing. 16-13. A major league record for most runs in a game this season. And then if you look across baseball last night, guys, it's the all-time record for most teams scoring 10 or more in one night. It's never happened before. I think the number kept growing by the end of the night. It was like 11 or 12 teams by the end of the night, 4 of which lost the games. But they hit double digits. So the ball was flying all over parks last night.
Was it a full moon last night or something?
It must have been a full moon. I don't know. Some people were texting me saying, is the ball juiced or something? What are they putting in these balls?
Mercury in retrograde, I guess. At least baseball Mercury in retrograde. Well, glad you had a good time, Willy. Like I said, Nick Saban took the podium this morning. And there's been this question that's kind of been thrown around on national media. I've seen it on ESPN. I've seen it on CBS Sports. And Paul Feinbaum addressed it about Nick Saban. Paul Feinbaum addressed it earlier this week on Get Up. This was Paul Feinbaum with a wild answer to a wild question.
Reason Alabama does miss the playoffs again this year. Are we going to be talking about Nick Saban's legacy in a different light?
I think, yes, you have to. And first of all, nothing is going to take away from what he's accomplished. And for those who don't follow this closely, he's won 6 national championships at Alabama since arriving in 2007. He won another one at LSU. But if he is in the same league as somebody who has now, at the end of this season, won 3, then that's a big hit on his legacy. And I think you also have to question Saban for what happened last year. He had the best team in the country going in. They were nearly unanimous. And at the NFL draft, in case anyone wasn't paying attention, let me refresh your memory. He had the best offensive player and the best defensive player, Will Anderson on defense, and of course the Heisman Trophy winner from 2 years ago and the #1 pick, Bryce Young, on offense. And with that, he still couldn't get it done. The defense let him down. There were mental lapses across the board. They had 17 penalties in the Texas game. I think they had just as many against Tennessee. And some of the coaching was subpar, too. And, I mean, Nick Saban, I've never seen a Nick Saban team get scorched like they did in the final minute against Tennessee in Knoxville when Hendon Hooker led that team down the field in 4 plays and kicked a field goal and sent Alabama home a loser. So those are serious questions. And one more thing about Alabama. 2 new coordinators. One has been there a couple of times, Kevin Steele on defense, but Tommy Rees comes over from Notre Dame. They don't have an established quarterback. And think about this for a second. The last couple of Alabama quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Mac Jones, and Bryce Young. I think you guys can figure out the rest.
Okay, again, that was Paul Feinbaum on Get Up earlier this week. Is Nick Saban's legacy on the line? Paul Feinbaum says, yes, I just about spit out my coffee when I heard that. What do we think? Is Nick Saban's legacy on the line?
I don't, you know.
D-Mase, your coach. Come on, his legacy. Why didn't Paul mention your legacy at Michigan State when he was the coach of Derek Mason there? I don't understand why that didn't get into the
Misstep on Paul's part.
Yeah, misstep on Paul's behalf. But I mean, I guess this is sort of the question that ends up coming up eventually, down the line with great coaches, great players. When there seems to be a chink in the armor, there's this, has he reached, has he come to the end of his road? Is he still the player or the coach that he used to be? All of that comes up when you've been so successful, and then you have a year where, it's not a bad year. It's just a year that you're not accustomed to, and everyone else is not accustomed to seeing you lose 2 games in one season, seeing you, give up as many points as you gave up from a defensive standpoint, Alabama. But there's no way in hell that if he doesn't win a national championship or if they don't win the SEC, that his legacy is questioned or tarnished. His legacy is set in stone. He will arguably go down as the greatest college football coach ever. He might just go down as the greatest coach ever to coach a team sport. So I don't think, his legacy will be tarnished if indeed they don't get back to national championship status. He has a program that consistently wins. Why don't we ask these questions of other coaches? When they have bad seasons. We only ask this question of Nick because he's been so great. And when the greats stop being great for any period of time, we question whether either they're coming to the end of their road or will this season or this year, whatever, tarnish what they've done for the last. He's been coaching damn near as long as I've been alive. So one season's gonna tarnish that? I don't think so.
What this is, guys? To me, it's a sign that we have not really had that really juicy topic that sustains all kinds of talk throughout Radio Row. I mean, fair to say. I mean, a lot of years you can think back, like the one year way back when Philip Fulmer was given a subpoena by the Alabama attorney. It was buzzing the whole week for that. It was unbelievably controversial. There's been other things that have happened through the years. That's just one example. We don't really have that topic or anything. So I think people are bored. Paul's trying to stir it up a little bit. I think he knows that Nick Saban's resume speaks for itself. I would say, though, that's a dynasty that he's got at Alabama. It's getting boring that they're picked at the top every year. Every single program that's got national championship aspirations is gunning for them. And so this is just what happens after a certain point. I mean, every cycle does have to come to an end at some point. It's just a matter of when, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. It's just hard to keep coming and satisfying people, even his own fans sometimes, that he gets short with at times on his radio show because, like you said, Derek, they're not used to losing 2 games in a year. The bar is so high, it can't be any higher.
And I think the word legacy, to use that word with that question, isn't fair. Because legacy I don't want to use reputation because it's not like he would ever have a bad reputation, but would Nick Saban's kind of fear be dissipated across the rest of the SEC if Alabama doesn't win the SEC West, doesn't get to the college football playoff, doesn't win a national championship? I would be more willing to entertain that conversation. Like, is the shine off the apple on Alabama and Nick Saban a little bit? I would be willing to say that. But the way that you're remembered,
that's a question that is a fun one to try to
conversation.
The legacy is not in question.
The legacy, the way that he will be remembered, absolutely is not in question. And I think that even asking that question is unfair and very disrespectful to Nick Saban and what he has done. Because I look at so many college football coaches now in college football that have really great reputations that I think will be remembered if their careers end today. that those coaches will be remembered for good things. Lincoln Riley is one of them. Ryan Day is one of them. Brian Kelly is another one. None of those 3 coaches have won national titles, yet if they retired today, I think they'd still have a pretty solid legacy. Nick Saban's won 7. 6 at Alabama and 1 at LSU. I don't care what he does this season. His legacy will be that he is one of the best college football coaches of all time. His teams are always going to be good. And let's not forget, Alabama went 10-2 this year. It's not like Alabama won 4 games. Sure, you could say, well, they went 10-2. They really could have gone 8-4, and that's fine. They could have lost the Texas game. Could have lost the Texas A&M game. I hear you. But Alabama went 10-2, and all of a sudden we're talking about Nick Saban's legacy. I know that whenever the higher the pedestal, the harder the fall. But I think we all are just grossly overreacting to what Alabama did this season. And that is coming from an LSU fan who really would love to see Nick Saban step away from the game of college football. I think it's disrespectful, and I think that we're kind of rewriting a tale of Nick Saban and a tale of college football that is inaccurate and just frankly ridiculous.
I think I think a lot of it has to do with not necessarily Nick, I believe, because Nick has found a way. The one thing you can say about Nick Saban that you probably can't say about a lot of coaches, head coaches that have been in the game a very long time,
right,
is that Nick has been able to transition from decade to decade. He's been able to transition from no NIL to NIL. He's been open and welcoming to, how offenses flow now. Because for years he won with what? Running a football. He had Ingram, he had Henry. You can go down the line of the backs that he's had in great defenses. But as the college landscape started to change, as the NFL did too, passing became more prevalent around the country. And Nick Saban then embraced that and allowed his team to sort of step into the new generation of playing football. So I don't think I try to not think that it's so much about Nick this season, but it's about who's playing quarterback for him this season. I think if he had, a guy coming back, say like a Bryce Young, if Bryce Young was coming back for another year, there would be no question about whether, no one would be questioning his legacy this upcoming year, even if they had lost 2 games the prior year, because they're bringing back a more veteran quarterback. This year, they're not bringing back a veteran quarterback.
Right.
They're still trying to figure that position out. So I think it's more so that than anything else, because Saban is Saban. He's going to coach the way he's been coaching. He's going to, morph into whatever he needs to be for his team as far as leadership-wise, coaching-wise. But what he doesn't have right now that he has had over the last 5 or 6 years is a quarterback, a proven quarterback.
And coming up next, I want to get into what absolutely terrifies me and probably should terrify every non-Alabama SEC fan out there, and something that I think Alabama fans should love. We'll get into that coming up next. And, of course, your thoughts as well. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Paul Feinbaum says, yes, Nick Saban's legacy could be in question. I think it is crazy. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
All the big plays.
Rebound, try out in front, and Saros covers it up.
All the big stories.
Andrew Burnett reportedly hired as the next head coach of the Predators.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
Checkered flag is in the air.
Comparing goalies to running backs.
46-27 Vanderbilt.
Does this group of players need more?
The Game and the Game Nashville app.
The team at Mercedes-Benz of Music City have done it again. Here's Edwin Vickery to explain.
4-time recipient of Best of the Best. Less than 10% of the dealers in the country receive this award. How did you do it? We say culture eats strategy for lunch, because we can strategize all we want, but unless you have the right culture and chemistry in the dealership, it will not work.
Live the dream at Mercedes-Benz of Music City, mbofmc.com.
For more than 100 years, Lincoln Tech's NADC in Nashville has helped people transform their lives by learning the skills they need to build a brighter future. While the skills, tools, and jobs have changed, one thing hasn't: Lincoln's ability to adapt their auto, diesel, and heavy equipment maintenance programs to meet the hiring needs of America's employers. Put your potential to work and enroll now for July classes at Lincoln Tech's NADC. Visit lincolntech.edu for info and to schedule a campus tour.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Are you drowning in credit card debt? Want to get cash out of your home's equity? Loan Pronto can do it now in less than a week. Hey, Willy Donick here. That's right. Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit just got even faster. You can get $50,000, $100,000, even $200,000 in as little as 5 days. You don't even have to touch your primary mortgage. You can keep that 3% rate intact. Get just the money you need and pay off all those credit cards or get that home improvement project started. With this revolutionary program, you can access up to 90% of your home's value, and in most cases, there's no appraisal. Stop paying insane interest rates to the credit card companies and get tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in as little as 5 days. Call Loan Pronto now for the even faster Equity Express line. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Want to weigh in on the conversation?
It's a brain booster.
Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
He is highly motivated. He is highly motivated. You understand me? He is highly pissed off. You understand me? Because this is the thing. Coach Saban don't want that spotlight off of him in Alabama. I don't care what nobody say. Coach Saban wants that spotlight. And he wants that spotlight on his program. He wants his program talked about. But the one thing I know with that little man, he's a master motivator, bro. I almost said a master manipulator because he probably that too. But he is a master motivator. And Coach Saban, and I'm sure Kirby as well because he's coached on them for years, but he's going to get the most out of those guys this year. I hear everybody talking about their quarterback situation and who's going to do this and who's doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's pissed. He's going to use that as motivation for these guys going into it. No one's talking about y'all. Everybody's an anointed Georgia, big bad. They done took over our run. And he's going to use all that. And I think that this year will probably be one of his best coaching jobs.
That was Rohan Davey, former LSU quarterback who played under Nick Saban, on what he thinks Nick Saban is going to turn all of this quote-unquote yummy rat poison into. Because I think we all know nobody creates bulletin board material quite like Nick Saban does. And nobody loves criticism quite like Nick Saban does. So hearing Rohan Davey and just knowing what I know about the tendencies of Nick Saban, I know he is collecting all of these things. Is Nick Saban's legacy on the line? Is Alabama no longer the Alabama or the dynasty that we knew it to be? I know that he's collecting this and he's going to use it as fuel for the fire. And me as an LSU fan, and I think Tennessee fans alike, or whatever fan that whatever team you might be a fan of, you should be scared, because I know I am.
Well, what happened when, people were early on when people were sort of Georgia was catching the buzz from everybody, and Georgia is the team to beat. Georgia is the team to beat. And then what happened? They beat Alabama in the SEC championship game, I believe, and everybody was saying it's over with. Then what happened? Nick Saban won the championship, didn't he? Didn't he win the championship that year?
Yep, he did.
Didn't he win it? Didn't he win the championship that year?
Yep.
Okay, I'm saying, I think what happens is people, because, and you said it, Willie, because he's been on top for so long, it becomes boring. It becomes boring to see Nick Saban win 12 games and not lose a game, or win 13 games, meaning a championship game, and not lose a game. It's boring to see him have the best quarterback. It's boring to see him have the best running back. It's boring to see him have two of the best receivers in the country. That's boring to everybody. Everybody's seen it.
We've seen it already.
Exactly. They want something new to happen. They want, everybody's seen, Jason Voorhees, get killed, stand back up, and start walking. They get tired. They want to see somebody just kill him, just put him out so he can't come back anymore. That's what people want to see.
Put us out of our misery.
Exactly. So, and it never happens.
Aren't
Jason
they still
Voorhees,
making Jason movies? I think
exactly. I'm sure they are. It's probably Halloween. Jason 55 now.
Friday the 13th.
Jason in Oklahoma.
All right, would anybody like to text the text line and tell us exactly how many Friday the 13th Jason movies there have been? Somebody got to Google that, or maybe Nick back at the studio can do that. I would
25.
add number one recruiting class is always boring, right?
Yes.
I think maybe somebody ranks him number 2 or 3 just for fun, just to say, well, I don't know about that. They got 1 4-star this year. It wasn't all 5-star. He always gets sensitive because, he's supposed to have this team stacked of 5-star. But as you said, Derek, the best thing you say about Coach Saban is not only does he get the best players, things like that, but I do think, he really does make an effort to try to develop players, not only as football players, but I think he tries to put them on a path to be successful beyond football. I think that's important. I don't know if he's the best at that, but I think he takes time. It's easy when you're at the top to just focus on the wins, but I do think that he does have some substance that way. Not every coach that reaches the top like that does, but I think he does. And I think the other thing that really jumps out to me that you mentioned, Derek, is he evolves, right, to keep winning. He doesn't keep running out the same thing, the same offense, the same formula, the same defense. He's able to change with the times, and I think that helps them stay on top and stay in the race every year.
D-Mase, are there any stories in particular that you remember when you played under Saban at Michigan State of him using that kind of bulletin board material to add fuel to the fire a little bit?
He was so young in his career when he came to Michigan State.
The rat poison wasn't quite the same then as it is now.
The rat poison wasn't the same as it is now.
Yeah.
But I think, playing Michigan, and, at the time, Michigan was the big, bad team, and I think he enjoyed that. Everybody's counting us out. I remember the year they came to East Lansing, and they had a stacked team that year. I think it might have been 96. They had a stacked team that year. And no one gave us a shot to win. And we end up beating them on a last-second touchdown from Tony Banks to Nigeria Carter. We had a pretty good team, too, but still no one picked us to win that game. And I think Nick Saban enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, we're the underdogs. We'll play that role. But, when game time comes, they will see and understand how good this football team is, how much we're going to fight to win this game. And we did.
Knowing what you know about Nick Saban, do you think that this is all fuel to the fire?
I think it does. I think it does from this standpoint. I think it's more so for his players than it is for him. I think he knows this is what comes with the territory. You know, when you've been up there for so long, someone's always questioning whether you're going to fall off or whether, you know, you have a great team or not. So he's used to this. The players, because they fluctuate in and out, new players all the time, they're not used to this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he does this now. It's like, it's the motivation is his kids, like his student athletes. Like, they are counting y'all out. Not necessarily me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they can count me out all they want to, but they're counting y'all out. They say, this recruiting class or this class that I have isn't good enough to win. It's about y'all.
Right.
You know, it's about me too, but it's about y'all. They are doubting y'all. Go out there and prove them wrong. I think it's more so about that than anything. And
I think he enjoys that part. I think he likes having other people doubt him. It gives him a little axe to grind. It helps him, I think, turn to his team and keep it fresh. You know, it gets like we were saying, gets old being number one every year. But I think when you have doubters, it probably adds a little fuel to the fire.
Totally.
And would you guys agree with me that Paul is bored? Paul Feinbaum is bored when he makes this statement. We don't have the Johnny Manziel not showing up to the Manning camp, right? I mean, I was at that circus. Derek, I don't remember if you were that. I think you might have been at that one, too, that year where it was an absolute zoo, and that's all anybody was talking about. We don't really have those juicy topics this week. Caroline, where's the tea? We don't have any tea.
There is not a lot of tea, Willie. I have been in search of the tea, but it's true. I feel like every single year there's a topic of conversation or the sexy question that everyone is asking. But I think that this season there is just so much uncertainty across the entire SEC. Is Hugh Freeze going to work out at Auburn? Has Nick Saban actually lost it? Can Georgia three-peat? Like, there's so much uncertainty that it's hard to drum up some tea when you don't even really know what the foundation of the tea really is.
You know, he reminds me, Nick Saban, and I was trying to look it up. I can't find it. What is the character, the superhero character on Marvel? I believe the lady that sort of morphs into different people.
I'm not.
She's
the
the blue
to
lady.
ask.
She's blue, and then she morphs.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Jennifer Lawrence.
Mystique,
plays her.
Mystique, yeah. That's all Nick Saban is. Nick Saban is Mystique. He can morph into anything he needs to morph into. As time goes on, if he needs to morph into a disciplinarian, he can do that. If he needs to be a little bit more lax, he can do that. If he needs to morph into the rah-rah NIL guy, he's going to do that. If he needs to pass the football more, he will morph into that. He's been able to morph into anything that he's been able to morph into just about anything he needed to in order to win.
That's what has made him such a
Jennifer
good coach.
Lawrence is better looking, though, I would say.
Yeah, I would say that, too. I would definitely say that.
Paint up Nick Saban blue with orange hair. Might be
she might be a little bit taller, too. I don't know.
The body paint, yeah, that would be interesting.
But I'm glad you bring that up because on ESPN.com, there's an article about an SEC West preview. LSU, what does LSU look like? Have they taken over as the thrones of the West? What does Hugh Freeze do at Auburn? Arkansas this year? What's Sam Pittman's expectations as he's walking past here? So I'm not going to say that too loud. But one of the questions is, does change catch up to Nick Saban at some point? I don't know what jaded LSU or Tennessee fan is working at ESPN that keeps bringing up these questions that are undermining Nick Saban, but that's ridiculous. I mean, Nick Saban, to your point, they're bored. And to your point, D-Mase, Nick Saban has been the one coach in college football that has been able to stand the test of time because he adjusts, because he changes, because he adapts. I don't think the game is all of a sudden catching up to him. He's been in it quite some time.
And the question, Willie, should be, and Caroline and I talked about this, the question shouldn't be all of this stuff that is being asked now. It should be, hey, has everyone caught up to Alabama in regards to the personnel, the guys that they're bringing in? That should be the question. How far? Because, 5 years ago, the gap was wide between Alabama and the next closest team consistently.
And I think LSU could hit it. Obviously they did in 2019. That's one of the most loaded college teams ever. I think that Joe Burrow team. So they could get there. on a given year, talent-wise. It just hasn't been quite as successful year in, year out. I think Georgia has caught them right now. And it took Georgia about 5 years. Of course, Kirby Smart learned a lot from Nick Saban. We know that. And you could see the steady progress that Georgia's making. But the layers of players, right? When you lose one or two guys or you lose an entire defense to the NFL draft, but you have that next wave coming up. I mean, that's the mark that you're looking for. That's the bar that Saban sets. And so I think right now Georgia's got it. So now Georgia's facing some heat, right? Some of the stuff that's going on there. This is the test. When you're at the very, very top, people are going to take shots at you. They're going to scrutinize everything you're doing. And so we'll see if Kirby Smart can go through the challenges and sustain it for a long period of time like Nick Saban has done.
And I'm glad that you bring up Kirby Smart. And as we are on the topic of some tea, I feel like Kirby Smart may have drummed up a little bit of tea himself yesterday, and we will get into that coming up next. And your thoughts as well, 615-737-1025. Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase is brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet. 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
End zone throw. Oh, what a catch! One-handed DeAndre Hopkins.
The Tennessee Titans have signed wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins.
Signing with the Tennessee Titans on a 2-year deal.
Well, it's definitely not a surprise. This is something that had been expected.
What can the talented wideout bring to the team?
Still someone who, against one-on-one coverage, he's going to eat.
Keep it locked to Nashville's best Titans talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Happy hump day. Man, listen to me, because I know you're out there. I know you got your radios tuned in to 102.5 The Game, and I need to tell you about Cool Springs MD. Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and his wife Daphne, along with that wonderful and experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life. Cool Springs MD services have already helped many men of Brentwood, Nashville, and the surrounding areas in Tennessee with improving their immune systems, energy levels, cognitive functions, and more. They're there to connect you with the medical care you require to have a healthy and enriched life. So there's no better time now to achieve a healthy lifestyle. So men, what are you waiting for? Give Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment. Here's the number, 615-486-3458. That's 615-486-3458. Or visit our website at coolspringsmd.com.
In St. Pete, Clearwater, Florida, every day is a beach day. With 35 miles of sugar white sands and emerald green Gulf waters, it's no wonder why. Let's unwind under the sun on Clearwater Beach, ranked #1 beach in the South by USA Today readers. And then liven up the night at the Sound, a new outdoor waterfront concert venue featuring performances this summer by Peter Frampton, the Goo Goo Dolls, and more. Let's shine. Plan your getaway at visitstpeteclearwater.com.
Gear up for back to school at Electronic Express. Don't miss an LG 75-inch 4K TV for only $699, or a Maytag front-load laundry pair just $699 each. Guaranteed lowest prices in every department at Electronic Express, including computers, appliances, 4K TVs, housewares, and more. Don't miss out on an Avanti portable ice maker for only $89, or an Acer gaming monitor just $129. Plus, get up to 60 months special financing. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Nashville is growing, but we remember our roots here.
The fairgrounds, my family and I have so many memories there. It is full of history, it is full of culture, and it is full of Nashville.
There are some folks who want to tear down our historic fairground speedway.
When you do that, you lose part of your story.
Don't tear it down, make it better.
I'm not necessarily a racing fan, but it's a part of the fabric of the neighborhood.
When you lose something, guess what? It doesn't come back.
Don't take away my history. Let's make sure we don't lose another piece of what makes our city so special.
Calling a criminal defense lawyer or a divorce lawyer, you may think it's the worst day of your life. It doesn't have to be. If you have quality, competent representation who can guide you through a complex system, we can do that for you. Despite if you've been arrested for a DUI or a robbery charge, whether or not you're going through a divorce or a post-divorce, or demanding your fundamental constitutional right to parent your children. 615-604-6263. AmandaJGentry.com.
94.9 The Fan is your home for Hit City.
Your Nashville Sounds continue their 6-game series tonight against Jacksonville.
Swing and a miss, strike 3. Sounds win.
Pre-game at 6:20.
On your home of Nashville Sounds baseball, 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app.
Hey, it's ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck on Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
You touched on the tragedy, obviously, that hit your program there, but you've had a number of traffic-related incidents since then. Are you disappointed that your players don't seem to have gotten a message from that?
I'm disappointed anytime we have traffic incidents. It's very evident when you look at it. We've had traffic citations and incidents throughout the history of being at the University of Georgia. And we actually don't have more now than we've had in the past. So what concerns me most is the safety of our players, all right? And when you drive at high speeds, it's unsafe. And we don't want that to happen. We're going to do all we can to take that out and make sure that's eradicated. But I'm also smart enough, Pat, to understand and know that 18 to 20-year-olds is when this happens. When it happened to me as a student athlete, that's when speeding happens. What we want to do is take that out and make it safe and not have high speeds. If somebody's going to get a speeding ticket, it should not be a super speeder.
That was Kirby Smart up at the podium yesterday. Of course, Georgia head football coach. If you have not been abreast of what has been going on with the Georgia football program, there's been about 400 speeding violations among that entire Georgia football roster, including one that took the lives of 2 people, one on the Georgia football team and one of the recruiters for the Georgia football team. So this isn't just a problem. This isn't just something that has been striking the Georgia football program. This is a tragedy that has taken lives. And Kirby Smart mentioned that at the podium. He also sat down with ESPN's Heather Dinich yesterday. He said it's not out of control as what the media has made it. I want to be clear. Street racing, unacceptable. Street racing takes 2 cars running side by side. Speeding is not acceptable, but it's realistic. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. Now, this was a print piece. This was just a tweet that Heather Dinich put out, so we can't hear, how Kirby Smart said it. But to be honest with you, it's pretty disappointing to hear Kirby Smart say that when it has been such a problem and a deep-seated issue in this football program that it seems like he's kind of just writing it off as, hey, young boys will be boys.
Yeah, on one hand, it's like, okay, you do understand that, whether you're young or a little bit older, speeding will happen.
And look,
it's
going 10 over.
Yeah, 10 over. That's yeah.
But the latest was one player going 85 and a 45.
Yeah,
that's reckless.
That's considered reckless driving. So it's almost as if, Kirby Smart is making an excuse, for these young men. And I've always said this about, whether it be coaches or some adults. On one hand, you want to say, well, treat them like they're kids, because they are. They're not fully, their brains are not fully developed. I forgot what age they said when a male's brain gets fully developed or whatnot. So on one hand, you want to say, well, treat them like kids, and because they are kids, they're going to make a mistake. But then on the other hand, on a football field, you want them to be adults and grown men and do the job that they are tasked to do. Be responsible. So you can't have it both ways. You can't want them to be responsible on the field, but then say, well, they're teenagers in a sense. They're young people, so they're going to speed. No, when you've had this many moving traffic violations, that's a problem.
Right.
And you, as a head coach, you have to do something to curtail this problem. You've already lost a life. You should have went in before that, but you should have went in after that and said, listen, anybody that is caught reckless driving, you're gone. Point blank. We've already lost a life. We don't need to lose more. But it's almost like he's trying to downplay it. Now, he could be telling his student athletes what I'm saying. He could be telling them that behind closed doors. I don't know. But when you get on the podium and say some of the things that you say, it's almost like, yeah, they're kids, they're going to speed. Yeah, I don't want the reckless driving. Our guys are not reckless driving. but they are speeding. No, your guys are reckless driving. And you've already had a death within a program. If you don't stop it, you're going to have another one. And then what?
That's the scary question.
That's what I just didn't hear in any of those answers is, and look, I know he's probably been asked a ton of times, and maybe it's harder and harder to show the type of empathy, but I just didn't see much empathy in there. I mean, one of his players died. One of his staff members died for something really not smart, right? Just very, very poor decisions. Yeah. So, I mean, I just feel like that would sting me, and I would be a little more serious, empathetic. I would assume that the family and the families are watching him every time he's asked that. How would I want to come across? I would want to be talking to them. Now, there's serious lawsuits out there. Like the latest one has been filed now by the other woman that died in the or sustained serious injuries, I should say, in that. So that's going on. So I know he can't really talk about specifics, but man, I would think it would get to him, and you would hear a little bit more of that coming out in him. I'm not saying he doesn't care at all, but when you're just turning around saying, yeah, speeding, a lot of kids speed, that's not the issue here, right? I mean, nobody would be looking into the speeding tickets had this tragedy not happened. This is all stemming from that, right? And obviously the players haven't really, like you're saying, Derek, doesn't sound like they're really getting the message, right? It's not like they saw that and are like, oh my gosh, I got to watch how I'm driving around town. The guy gets hit for 85 and a 45. What's going on there? Like it's certainly not implanted in your habits when something like that happens. A huge event like that, you would think would influence your habits going forward, at least for the next several years, right? You would never forget something like that. You lost a teammate.
You don't. And my thing is, I know how much I preach to my son about, dude, don't drive so fast. Like, I can sit here and tell him not to speed, but I know it's just like, okay, I know you get behind a car, you're going to go a little bit over the speed limit. I tell him, don't be out there driving all crazy. Don't. Because a lot of times it's not you, it's the person that doesn't see you that ends up coming over or doing something or not paying attention, and then you end up in a car accident because you're driving so fast you can't slow down. I preach that to my son just about every time. And I'm sure, Willie, you tell your son or your daughter, just be careful when you get behind the wheel. To me, it doesn't seem as if, like you said, Caroline, they're not getting the message. What you're saying to them isn't resonating to them.
It doesn't, at least
it doesn't seem like it.
I didn't hear any sense of urgency in Kirby Smart's voice about how, as an outsider, on the outside looking in, I look at that and I say, that is a problem.
Exactly.
But that is an issue within your program. I didn't feel that sense of urgency when Kirby Smart addressed it, and that's an opportunity for him to be able to say publicly, like, I know this is a problem and we are trying to address it, and there is a zero tolerance policy for this sort of thing. And I think that if there were future incidents of things that would be happening, we would all look at it and say, well, Kirby Smart is trying his best to try to put this under control. It doesn't seem like that to me. And I think that, as a media perspective, the whole line of questioning and the vibe around Georgia is, can they three-peat? When in reality, I think my biggest question about the Georgia football program is, does Kirby Smart have a grasp on his locker room? Because it doesn't seem like he does. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Let's get your thoughts on that coming up next. Anything is on the table. Alabama, Nick Saban, Paul Feinbaum said, yes, he does think that Nick Saban's legacy is on the line, and I think that is crazy. We'll get into your thoughts on all of the latest on SEC Media Days. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
It's going down. They fight.
Jared, you're
How do you know, Joe? How do you know? And fight. And because of that,
But how do you know that, though? But how do you know that?
But that's okay. It's Jared and Joe. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m., Jared Stillman and Joe Rexroad debate the big topics in sports. Jared versus Joe, presented by Pella Windows and Doors and Parman Tractor and Equipment on Stillman and Company. Wednesdays at 5 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
The FedEx St. Jude Championship returns to TPC Southwind, August 9th through the 13th. Don't miss your chance to witness the top 70 players from the PGA Tour season battle it out in the first event of the FedEx Cup playoffs. Only 50 players will make it through Memphis. Don't miss your chance to watch the drama unfold. Daily grounds and upgraded ticket options are on sale now at FedExChampionship.com.
Hey, Tennessee, when you bet on Zen Sports, the new sportsbook in town, you get the best reward possible. Cold, hard cash. You bet with your own money, so why accept anything less from your rewards program? With Zen Sports, you earn cash on your bets, cash on your referrals bets, and a welcome bonus in, you guessed it, cash. So stop settling for Vegas rewards when we're in Tennessee. Cash in your old sportsbook for Zen Sports. Your wallet will thank you later. Zen Sports. Betting just got better. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 and up and in Tennessee to bet.
Hi, I'm Chase McKay with your PBR Minute. Nashville Stampede Days coming back to Nashville August 18th through the 20th at Bridgestone Arena. You can go to NashvilleStampede.com or Ticketmaster.com to get your tickets now. Justin McBride and his squad are ready to start the season, and they will do so coming up on Monday, July the 24th in Cheyenne, with a couple of games against Missouri and Texas. And Coach McBride will look to KK Pacheco to lead his roster, but who else is he looking at to make an impact?
Dinner Barbosa is actually a guy we drafted last year, had a broken back. People were kind of looking at us like, what the heck are y'all doing? He's a world-class bull rider. Didn't get to compete in teams last year. We've got him this year, and so I'm really excited to see what Dinner can bring to the team.
Tickets for the PBR's Nashville Stampede Days are on sale now, NashvilleStampede.com or Ticketmaster.com.
Houston Clinic Orthopedics at TriStar Summit offers world-class orthopedic care. The doctors at their Hermitage location specialize in general orthopedics, sports medicine, and hip and knee pain and injuries. Get back to enjoying life sooner. Schedule your appointment online at tn.houston.com. Conveniently located in the TriStar Summit Medical Center in Hermitage, right off I-40. When experience matters, trust Houston Clinic Orthopedics.
Tuning into the baseball game, monitoring the incoming storm, catching your favorite talk show. These are just a few of the reasons more than 80 million Americans depend on AM radio each month. And did you know AM radio is the backbone of the emergency alert system, keeping us safe in dangerous times? It's reliable, free, and public safety depends on it. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Hey, it's John Tesh. You want to know how to get better rates, better coverage, and better service on your home and auto insurance? Work with Zander Insurance. I know it's a big promise, but this team delivers. They've been around for almost 100 years and have earned the privilege of representing dozens of insurance companies so they can shop, compare, and find you the best options available. More options mean more savings, and in many cases, better coverage. But it doesn't stop there. Each year, they review your coverage to make sure your rates stay competitive. Nobody else does that. And when it comes to service, just check out their ratings. Zander is one of the top agencies in the industry, and they earned that spot with their commitment to making sure their clients are taken care of like family. That's what sets them apart. Go to Zander.com for quick online quotes or call 800-356-1780 for that personal touch that you've been missing.
Hear that? That's Jeff Anderson. He's that guy in your neighborhood that's always making improvements to his house, his car, his yard. On your street, it's about keeping up with the Andersons. One thing you don't know is Jeff's tools are from Harbor Freight. Tools at great prices. That circular saw right there, you wouldn't believe the deal he got. Just think, when you're keeping up with the Andersons, you're saving money. Whatever you do, do it for less at Harbor Freight.
Nashville's radio version of The Odd Couple.
You would trade for the third pick? Yeah. I don't know that I would do that.
Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexrode are Robbie and Rexrode.
I'm here for the discussion. I'm not. It's a good one. It's absurd.
Robbie and Rexrode. Mornings from 6 to 9.
Win the games. When they get in the playoff, they'll have a chance to.
Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Having some fun in the midday.
Okay, that's really fun.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It's a good source of energy because it's live.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
The Game Summer Ticket Tour is headed to Bringles Smoking Oasis, located at 4901 Centennial Boulevard in Nashville, this Friday afternoon from 2 to 6. Come eat, drink, hang, and leave with a pair of free Sounds, Preds, Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, or concert tickets. Also, you can get signed up for the grand prize, Titans tickets, Preds tickets in the 501 Club, and a 2-night stay at Opryland Hotel with access to sound waves. Black Tie Moving delivers the Game Summer Ticket Tour. For more details, visit thegamenashville.com/tour. Got some thoughts on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com on the latest in the goings-on at SEC Media Days. So unless we have a thought,
let's go.
Let's get to our phones. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you have a thought. Wes in Clarksville texts in, says, Saban is the new Belichick. Better get used to losing. Here's my thing about the Saban-Belichick comparison, because I get it. I see it. You know, two coaches that are at the top of their craft, two coaches, no pun intended, two coaches that are considered, you know, the best coaches in their respective sports. The difference between Saban and Belichick is that Belichick hasn't been able to win since Tom Brady left New England. So you could make the argument, well, maybe all the magic was Brady rather than Belichick. Nick Saban has enough of a resume of winning across different years, different generations, with different quarterbacks, with different players, in different eras of college football at two different schools. So I don't think that it's the comparison is necessarily fair. Saban's been able to win more in a whole lot of different dimensions of college football when Belichick was able to win when he had the greatest quarterback in the sport.
This whole notion of, you know, well,
and the notion as well is crazy.
The notion of, this is Bill Belichick 2.0, so get used to it. He's going to start. No. If you know anything about the pro game and the college game, two different atmospheres. They're playing at two different levels, on two different planets in a sense. You know, for Bill Belichick, it's harder for him to sustain that championship level caliber because players are getting older, free agency. You know, there are a lot of other things sort of, you know, you got to put into, you know, why Bill Belichick has sort of, you know, lost that touch in a sense. With Nick Saban, every year, unlike the NFL, every year he gets an opportunity to bring in 30 to 40 new players. Every year, just about. He just keeps replenishing. In the NFL, it's hard to replenish each and every year because of salary cap, because of free agency. It's hard to do that. So the notion of, he's going to be about Bill Belichick, no, he's not. This is a different world that he's operating in. He's not operating in the NFL world. That's why some college coaches enjoy being in college, you know, because it operates totally different from what the NFL operates. Every year, he can go get a whole new group of 5-star people. You can't do that in the NFL. Just can't.
And it's almost an advantage to the NFL because you don't have to keep going out and recruiting and finding new players year over year over year over year. You can have the same core.
Yeah.
You don't have that luxury in college. Doug in Franklin, Texas says, Alabama's like Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods elevated the level of play, and everybody else had to elevate theirs to catch up. Alabama has done the same for college football. They challenge everybody to get better. I would probably agree. They set the standard.
I say to a degree. It's not like they're the first dynasty in college football, though. I mean, there have been others through the years, through the decades. You know, I would say, you know, maybe, you know, I do think you could probably make a good argument that in this day and age, where it's probably a little harder to dominate, and he's got more national championships, say, than Spurrier in his great run in the early, really the entire 90s, right? That was probably Spurrier's heyday, generally speaking. Tennessee had a great run in the 90s, but to get up to 7, what did you say, Caroline? 6 at Alabama.
6 at Alabama.
That is hard to
LSU.
match. I mean, you got to go way back to get into that. I mean, Bear Bryant you would certainly have a great debate of Bear Bryant in that context versus Nick Saban in today's college game. How stacked the SEC is, et cetera. But it's up there.
There's no other program, I don't believe, in the history of sports. There may be one program, two. Let's say women's, UT's women's basketball, UConn's women's basketball, the John Wooden teams at UCLA, and then Nick Saban's teams in Alabama. Those are the only 4 teams that I can truly believe that changed their sport, that made everybody else like, hey, listen, we need to do something, because if we don't, we're going to fall so far behind and we're not going to catch up. Those are the only 4 programs that I believe that had a direct impact on what we see in sports today. Women's basketball. Why is it so big? Because of what Pat Summitt and UConn, their team, they were able to do. They push other programs to go out and recruit harder so they can catch up with them. UCLA teams.
Pat Summitt pushed UConn. Like, I think she was maybe there early, and UConn was motivated to try to catch them, and then took that to another level.
Absolutely. So this program in Alabama has done something that no other football program has been able to do. They forced you to get better. They forced you to go out and recruit harder. They forced you to bring on more than, the allotment of coaching staff. They forced you to change your program. Why? Because of what they were doing. UConn did it, UT did it, and those Wooden teams did it.
And certainly the part of that is all of those programs were able to continue to adapt, as Nick Saban has done as well. One texter texts in says it's starting to get boring with Georgia now too. I do wonder, at first when Georgia beat Alabama in the SEC title game a couple years ago, I think that everyone was thinking, oh my goodness, finally there's someone new on the block. But now we are here, 2 Georgia national championships removed from that, and I do feel like there is Georgia fatigue, even after just 2 years. I think everyone's just sick of it.
I'm not. I mean, I like it for college football. I really do. I like that there's sort of, I'm not going to say this like the enemy of Alabama. I just think you have, it's Marvel versus DC. You have the top, whoever the top man in Marvel and the top man in DC, and they're going at it.
You've been on a Marvel kick today.
I like Marvel. That's the best one out. But they're going at it. And it's not that either one is bad. It's just that, they're at the top of their game. And it is what it is.
I am
that's
currently
the nature
experiencing Georgia fatigue.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
it's only been 2 years.
Over it. 2 years
later.
Your team can get in there.
Exactly.
Right? That's if you're looking at college football and saying you want something like the NFL, you're not going to get it, right? It's just not set up for parity. It's a group of superpowers, right? It is superheroes, Marvel and DC. And LSU can get into that mix sometimes. Florida was in it. They're not in it now, right? They're trying to get back up there. Tennessee is trying to get back up there. They were a superpower. There are some that can rise up and have a good cycle. There are very few that are there all the time. But in a given year, you could probably write down a list of a dozen teams and go to Vegas, and one of those 12 is going to win it, right? But almost every time you're going to be right. It's very rare that a team out of nowhere wins the whole thing. Doesn't mean they can't maybe sneak in and get to the Final Four. And now we're going to have an expanded playoff, so more teams will get playoffs. But can you win the whole thing? It's a very small number of schools that can.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Jonathan Hutton will come to hang out with us coming up next. Jonathan Hutton, Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Hey y'all, it's Courtney with Parman Tractor and Equipment. Warmer months have you working overtime? Be sure to visit Parman Tractor and Equipment for all your New Holland tractor and bush hog needs. Swing by our store at 3570 Dickerson Pike in North Nashville or give our sales team a call. We're now offering 0% financing for 72 months on select New Holland tractors. Get the brands you trust from a local dealer like Parman, always ensuring totally outrageous customer service. Visit ParmanTractor.com for the best deals on equipment, New Holland tractor, bush hog, and more.
There's nobody on the planet who's as picky when it comes to diamonds as Genesis Diamonds owner Boaz Ramon.
I'm very, very selective on the diamond that I pick.
Indeed, Boaz will look at 2,000 diamonds on the world market and find maybe 2 or 3 that meet his criteria.
What most people don't know, and even jewelers, a diamond has much more than the 4 C's. He has maybe 20 C's.
Like the diamond's luster grade or brilliance level, its feathering, its inclusions, its table, its polish, its symmetry, even the diamond's own DNA or X-ray report, which most jewelers don't even know about.
I refuse to sell diamonds that don't go through our very, very strict criteria.
Which means a Genesis diamond is one she can be proud to wear, with the most sparkle and brilliance and real intrinsic value.
This is my goal, to go all over the world and find only the best hand-selected diamond.
Genesis Diamonds, setting the highest quality standards in the jewelry business. Green Hills and Cool Springs.
94.9 The Fan is your home for Hit City.
Your Nashville Sounds continue their 6-game series tonight against Jacksonville.
Swing and a miss, strike 3. Sounds win.
Pre-game at 6:20.
On your home of Nashville Sounds baseball, 94.9 The Fan and the Fan app.
Your Game Center update.
This is Nick Frazier. The Arizona Diamondbacks TV broadcast will be available blackout-free the rest of the season due to the Diamond Sports Group's bankruptcy. In other news, Northwestern University is set to begin 2 reviews of the Northwestern Athletic Department. Yesterday at SEC Media Days, Paul Feinbaum joined Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase and talked about the flaws of the NIL in college athletics.
This is not a new issue. Everybody's been complaining about it. And the reason why they didn't do anything because they were afraid of going to court. I sat with the new president of the NCAA a couple weeks ago in Washington, and he got up in front of this organization. I'd spoken right before him, and he said, the NCAA blew it on NIL. I'm like going, you're the head of the NCAA. But at the time, he was the governor of Massachusetts. They can't fix it.
News in the NFL, the Tennessee Titans outside linebacker Rashad Weaver was scheduled to begin his trial on a misdemeanor assault charge. The charge has been dropped according to the Tennessean. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 102.5 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 102.5 and 106.3.
And a score!
You can run different offenses.
The doors on the board.
Off the field, on the field.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mace.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willy Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personalities of all time.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. We are live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, and we are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook. Download their app today and use promo code THEGAME. Day 3 of SEC Media Days. We're live out here at the Grand Hyatt in downtown Nashville. Our SEC Media Days coverage is brought to you by Volunteer Hose and Gasket and Mercedes-Benz of Music City. It's a Wednesday at noon, so it's Hutton o'clock. Hutton, always appreciate our time with you.
My favorite 30 minutes right here, smack dab in the middle of the week. Great to be on and great to join you live here at the, Grand Hyatt.
Grand Hyatt.
Is where
Some
we
people
are.
might say this is everyone's favorite 30 minutes of
Is
the week.
Willy at the Ritz-Carlton? I'm looking at the YouTube stream right now, and he has the same backdrop, so I'm assuming it's the same type of hotel, which means it's very expensive, which I would expect from Willy Donick.
He does look awfully camouflaged in Atlanta.
Isn't this weird that usually it's Hutton on the Zoom talking to us in the studio. I'm on the Zoom now talking to Hutton, but yeah, I'm at a residence today. I'm in the home office of my buddy Bruce Elder, co-captain 1993 Vanderbilt Commodore championship basketball team, but he was nice enough to let me use the office today. So yeah, I'm in the high end, but I'm just not in a high end hotel.
He's in a gated community, is what I hear.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Well, Hutton, DeAndre Hopkins is officially a Titan. What did you make of the deal? What did you make of the term, the money? What did you make of the fit?
I think it's a team-friendly contract, honestly. I mean, it feels like they were negotiating against themselves. They gave $3 million in incentives that apparently, according to those covering the Patriots wanted to match certain terms of the money, but they wanted more of the incentives than what the Titans were giving on the money up front. I don't mind it. I'm also just straight up, I'm hesitant to be all in on what this team becomes with him. They needed him in that wide receiver core. Mace, I know you're thinking about who they were versus what they became too. And we chatted about this a couple of weeks ago, but depth-wise, they needed a proven guy, a playmaker, a guy that just scores touchdowns. And this team doesn't have many of those. And they have that guy when he's available. I like that. I'm also not sitting here saying, oh, this is, Traylon Burks is going to go off because he's got Hopkins opposite him. There's a lot that happens between now and the start of the season. And it's a slow progression normally, not a fast one. And, I mean, all that to say, Caroline, I like it. I'm not jumping in saying I love it yet because this team doesn't have a great history, regardless of coach or general manager, of bringing guys in and having them actually produce to the level that they were paid to do. And also from Hopkins' point of view, for me, is I need to know how motivated he is. Is he pissed off that his market value was what it was versus what I'm sure he thought he was going to get either via trade or visit-wise? Or is this more like a Randy Moss or, a guy that's coming in for another paycheck, and which I'm totally fine with.
Yeah.
He's reached that level where he's going to get paid before he's not in the league. I don't know where he is in that because, quite frankly, the NFL's telling us he's got to prove it again before they're going to pay him the way that the Cardinals just paid him. I'm very intrigued with the dynamic of the locker room and the organization who, once again, it looks like they're planning for the future while trying to win now.
So you say you're not all in, and that's fair. That's really fair. Jonathan,
I'm in on the idea, the concept.
Okay.
But and I don't blame them one bit for signing him. I'm just not saying I don't think they're above Jacksonville with the move. I think they're with Jacksonville. I think there's a lot of people that are saying, oh, Titans are again the favorite of the division. I'm not there yet.
Has the DeAndre Hopkins signing bridged the gap between Titans and Jags?
No doubt. Again, they're neck and neck. They were an organization that looked like they had taken a step back to Jacksonville, regardless of Jacksonville's late run and how that game ended up with, the last game of the season. It just didn't feel the same. The momentum had really shifted towards Florida, right? Now I think you give some hope and momentum back in, a little boost in the passing game. But this still comes down to, can they protect Ryan Tannehill or not?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of questions there just based on – factors of last year with injuries and guys going down, guys getting moved around, guys not panning out with who they brought in. I have no idea if a backup from Philly comes in and starts the same way Dennis Kelly was a hit. Or what does the suspension early in the season with Nicholas Petit-Frere do to the core of that group that they have in mind that was healthy?
In the toughest stretch of the season.
It's all they've got to protect their quarterback if they want the wide receivers to actually put up some numbers.
Yeah, you're right. This move to me, even though I do like it, Hut, from the standpoint of because they needed him. This was the situation, I believe, that had Hopkins gone, it didn't even have to be New England, but if Hopkins had gone to another team, I think you wouldn't have been able to hear the last of it here in Nashville because everybody would point back to A.J. Brown. You let him get away. You had an opportunity to get another receiver. For whatever reason, you didn't pay him the money to get him. Now, how he performs this season, I don't know. I think the biggest question for me with him is how does he adapt, you know, to being possibly the number 2? Because as good as D-Hop has been in his career, and I've said this over and over again, when it comes to catching the football, I haven't seen anyone like him.
I agree with
since Larry Fitzgerald and Chris Carter, as far as just catching the football.
Amazing radius.
Exactly. But how did he come into an offense where he could potentially not be the number 1 for one, but he's not getting the targets that he's used? He's a high-volume guy. Even last year, he was a high-volume guy. People look at it, well, he had 65 catches, 9 games, 700 yards. Well, hell, they threw to him almost 100 times. So he's a high-volume. Now, how do you come and not be a high-volume guy? How do you adapt to that?
Well, here's the truth, though. They are going to be at their pinnacle, at their best, if Treylon Burks is the number 1.
And that's what I believe.
And here's the other thing. No one was trying to sign him to be a number 2 anywhere else either. That's the market. Like, there are no other teams mentioned for the deal he just received. And maybe Kansas City would have got in if they have Jones restructured and it frees up some salary cap space. But again, like the number of teams that have been reported with an offer, 2, and he had his pick on. Oh, you can be a number 1. You can also just play. You can play now instead of waiting for later. I like the fact that he went ahead and signed now. And it's crucial now because Tannehill's coming off of the ankle surgery. Everything looks great with Burks based on those that have been laying eyes on him. Now they've got to get acclimated as a unit, as a passing group. And then how much does Chigakonkwo factor in to this mix too, and how they can run their offense? He's primarily an outside receiver. I know he ran more inside a bit last year. I think that's where he got the most of his numbers. I'm saying snap counts were higher inside than they had been throughout his career. But he's the outside guy, and you can move Burks around and make him the puzzle piece and the number 1. Feed Treylon Burks. I want the ball in his hands, and you can use Hopkins to your advantage there. But this cannot be the Julio Jones experiment, not from Julio's stance. They had Julio Jones on the sideline on like 3rd and 13 with a group of a package group. I'm thinking, why trade for him if you're not going to have him on the field on the money downs where you need to move the chains?
Right.
They've got to also treat Hopkins that way. They can't just ignore the fact, the analytics are telling us to put so-and-so in here. No. Hopkins is on the field with Burks, and this can't be some package thing, and I don't think it will be. It can't be.
Well, I don't think they deviate from what they do, and I don't know if Hopkins' team actually looked at what the Titans do as far as personnel, because if they did, they would know. Even with A.J. Brown,
but
they still were moving him in and out with personnel.
Yeah, but on the moment opportunities, A.J.'s on the field, right? Same thing. He certainly knows Tim Kelly, and he trusts Mike Vrabel. He knows Bill O'Brien. Belichick's always been a massive fan of DeAndre Hopkins and the mic'd up segments on NFL films when they're interacting and when they're game planning against the Texans back in the day. So I think the teams that were involved, he also knew conceptually what it would look like, and he also put up big numbers in an offense that was similar to that when Kelly was there in Houston.
But he was the number 1 guy. Now, if he is the number 1 guy in this offense, well, let me rephrase it.
He's instantly the most productive pass catcher they have now.
If Treylon Burks isn't the number 1 guy, is there a problem with this offense?
Yes, because Treylon Burks is also living up to expectations too, or not in this scenario.
Exactly.
But look, this gives them an opportunity to have Treylon Burks be the number 1 guy, because right now, if they didn't have Hopkins, who else are you worried about in that passing game? And you may not even be worried about Burks, but he's the focus of how you would defend the passing game against the Tennessee Titans on 3rd and, let's be honest, it would be 3rd and 10 plus based on what we saw last year.
More with Jonathan Hutton coming up next. Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase is brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet. 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Every day we are live and local.
It will help them get better players. I'm really excited about this defensive front.
And your source for Nashville sports.
They had missed the playoffs.
Those players may end up being practice squad guys.
We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Hey, Ray Jeter here with Harness. Are you looking to take ownership in a position that will support your growth and development? We are an excavation and site utilities contractor. Several things set us apart from our competition, but we take the most pride in the professional development of our people. We have multiple openings for operators, pipe layers, and laborers. Our pay and benefits are second to none, including our 401k program. Apply today at selectharness.com. Harness LLC. Build people, move dirt.
The team at Mercedes-Benz of Music City have done it again. Here's Edwin Vickery to explain.
4-time recipient of Best of the Best. Less than 10% of the dealers in the country receive this award. How did you do it? We say culture eats strategy for lunch, because we can strategize all we want, but unless you have the right culture and chemistry in the dealership, it will not work.
Live the dream at Mercedes-Benz of Music City, mbofmc.com.
312 Pizza Company is your spot for the best Chicago-style eats right here in Nashville. From thin crust pizza to deep dish pizza to Italian beef sandwiches and Chicago dogs. Doesn't get much better than that. Until now. 312 Pizza Company is now serving up their award-winning pizza by the slice. All day, every day. Don't have time to wait for a full pie? No problem. Get a slice instead. Order a full pie but want a little more? Add another slice. Do it. Honestly, just go get a slice. 312 Pizza Company. Nashville's authentic Chicago pizzeria. Go get a slice.
This is Evan Bass for the Tennessee Men's Clinic. For most of us, sex is a big part of our relationship. So when something like erectile dysfunction starts affecting intimacy, it can be a real problem. But what you may not know is that ED doesn't just affect you, it can be tough on your partner as well. Plus, if you have ED, you know how it can make you feel. The truth is, we see a lot of guys who have depression, frustration, and even relationship issues because of ED. But we don't want ED to impact you or the one you love anymore. The Tennessee Men's Clinic tackles ED. Our urologists and medical providers take a comprehensive approach and have treated thousands of men with treatments that are successful in nearly 90% of cases. Even if your hormones are off, or if pills, wave therapy, or other treatments have left you hanging, the Tennessee Men's Clinic will work hard to help you get your sex life back, perhaps performing like you haven't in a long time. So call us. Your first appointment includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. We have 2 offices in Midtown and Franklin.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra, results vary.
Want to see our smiling faces? You can watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live.
We are good to go.
Presented by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. Having some fun in the midday.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Live out here at SEC Media Days at the Grand Hyatt in downtown Nashville. Jonathan Hutton is with us now.
Okay, Hut, so you've been at the SEC Media Days these last few days through the ranks here. I feel like we're lacking that huge, juicy topic that we're all just rallying around here. But let me get your thoughts, because Tennessee hasn't gone yet. I'm sure this will come up a lot when they do. But just your thoughts as now we've had a few days to sort of digest the final ruling from the NCAA on the sanctions.
The sanctions. So I spoke with Greg Sankey earlier this morning, Willie, and that topic came up just from the length, 3 years, and all of the different reports. And you wrap up your internal investigation, you self-impose things, and then you sit around and wait. I think that is the next hurdle. Is what takes so long in this? I think that's the topic with it. I don't believe in punishing players that had nothing to do with an issue that was prior to their arrival anywhere close to on campus. Heupel has had to deal with the self-imposed scholarship reductions and things when he first took over. Unlike Pruitt, he was actually winning with the talent that he had and looked vastly different with Heupel than Jeremy Pruitt. The $8 million fine is fascinating because that to me, the highest that we've seen. I don't blame the NCAA for coming down with that penalty because they also want to set a precedent, but at the same time, it's leadership. It's a penalty imposed by a governing body that I don't know when they don't have power. It's a bizarre time in college athletics, and they get to pick and choose when they want to, be heavy-handed or not. And I think in large part it's just this is their lane where they can be heavy-handed, and in other places they can't. And the fine was certainly showing that and indicative of that. And the other really interesting piece that I was reading, I believe Adam Sparks put out the list, and anyone could see it based on text exchange and emails. But Fulmer's list of everyone that he would consider or would like to have considered if Pruitt had to get the axe. I mean, it was a long list, and it's a list of coaches that are walking these halls this week here in Nashville.
Such as? So name a couple.
Well, he would. These were more notes. He had a lot of typos in it, so I think it's more of like a iPhone note that he forwarded to one of his assistants, who was then going to write up something that he would approve. But Shane Beamer was listed. Eli Drinkwitz was listed. They looked at a couple of other young guys. He mentioned Healy as a energetic and promising young coach, I believe was in parentheses there.
Joe Brady was on that list.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was almost like a live brainstorm that you got to see. Yeah. But
it's a great example too, isn't it, Hut, that your stock, just take that list, right? In that moment, a lot of those guys really did have a lot of momentum. And now just fast forward just a couple of years later, it's not the same for some of those guys. Yeah. The stock has risen and fallen for a bunch of those guys.
No doubt. And it's also interesting, once Fulmer, steps down, steps aside, retires, and he also said that he didn't agree with firing Pruitt in that same note, but then here's kind of a brainstorm assessment of where he would like to go with the hire if in fact it had to happen. I think it's also important to look at where Tennessee ended up and the fact that they end up hiring Heupel from the same university where the AD is hired to replace Fulmer, and it was almost deemed as this is the last resort because of the situation, and it ends up being the best possible of the coaches on that list at the time when Fulmer would have been pulling the trigger and hiring someone. So again, I go back to in the moment, in reaction to the moment, you don't really realize what something can be based on who doesn't know who's doing the hiring, the firing, and the situation that they're inheriting. I love the coaches that don't make excuses, and Heupel didn't. We haven't seen that from him.
I think based on all those notes, I think every Tennessee fan is pretty happy with where it's gone since then, as opposed to the leadership of Philip Fulmer as an athletic director as opposed to a football coach. But let me throw this at you, Hut. I read a very interesting article on the Tennessee story by Pat Forty, who's been at the SEC Media Days this week as well. And he was basically saying, look, this is the end of an era. There was no postseason ban for Tennessee. And when you take a look forward, it's hard to imagine that a team could cheat to a point where you would get a postseason ban. just because the rules have been loosened up so much. Like, what could you do that could get you knocked out of a postseason? So those days might be like Tennessee could have been the last one. That was maybe the last shot. That was his argument anyway. What do you think?
I guess so. I mean, I'm thinking of what we've seen recently. You know, I'm thinking of Les Miles. You know, Les Miles had wins taken away. So the postseason ban, quote unquote, was they took away these wins from the last couple of years from Tennessee in the bowls, which means nothing. Those games happened. We saw the results. They made the money. The players got the experience. You know, all of that. And you're telling me Les Miles would not. He would not want to trade wins for a national title. Of course he would.
Right.
They did, you know, at LSU. So yeah. I mean, it's again, Willie. It's a governing body that I don't really know what type of power they wield, and I think the most powerful dude right now in college athletics is Greg Sankey, because everyone kind of follows the mantra and the tone of whatever he's trying to set on that Monday address, which I didn't find very I didn't find very good for where we're headed in NIL, because I don't think it didn't come across as very positive or optimistic that anything's going to happen anytime soon in terms of regulation, either state by state, conference by conference, or what he was trying to push was federal legislation and having Congress do it.
Yeah, that's another thing that I wanted to touch on with you.
And by the way, they're pointing to people who don't really they're in government. They're pointing to people to make up rules and regulations for Nick Saban, who's asking, just show me the rule book. I want to have everyone follow the same rules. Nick Saban and Greg Sankey are looking at people that don't know anything about what they're trying to regulate and come up with rules for.
And they don't care.
They don't care.
But aside from that, like, why would you? Greg Sankey could get with Tony Petitti with the Big Ten. He's got to have a better relationship with him than he did with Kevin Warren. And they can come up with their own rules to follow if they really want to. And they actually have contact with all these coaches, the administrative, the ADs, the collectives. There's a lot of people that are just grandstanding in order to sway one side instead of the other. And I think that's where we are, and I think Sankey was alluding to that on Monday.
Well, they want Congress to do the dirty work. They want Congress to do their dirty work.
Well, but I think everyone's using everyone in that to stay in the status quo. And I didn't find it very optimistic that what he was saying last year, that they didn't make much progress, even though I think they're about to present a bill soon to across Congress. I mean, we've seen that before too. I think it's just a slow process. That if we're talking about this as much as we are, and you want change with the system, there has to be someone that, first and foremost, they need to find out who's going to lead that charge. And I don't.
Is it Sankey?
Well, it could be. It absolutely can be. Mm-hmm. But I don't think pointing things to Capitol Hill is automatically some big solution when you're going to wait, 3-4 years through an entire election cycle instead of just banding together and making college football whatever you think it should be at the very top and letting everything else be governed a different way. That's just the where we are, and I don't think we're close to either option currently.
Why do you think they don't do that?
I mean, multiple reasons come to mind. I mean, first, the presidents and the universities, the board of directors don't want it because they like the money they're raking in now. They don't want the players to be employees or independent contractors. Mm-hmm. They don't want a union. We're going to get that anyway.
Yeah.
And I think also the TV money that and the contracts that have just been signed play a factor into all of it too, because you're trying to make everybody happy, which you're not going to be able to please everyone in this. And and while that goes on, again, I'm just reading between the lines. Why that goes on, you're complaining. You're like the big time college football is complaining about where we're headed in the player space. Mm-hmm. And no one's really doing anything to regulate it except talk about regulation without having a plan mapped out, because those that will be coming up with those rules don't really know the space that they're about to jump into and regulate. And it's got to be someone that steps up and grabs the brass ring that Vince McMahon talks about in WWF. That could be Greg Sankey in a snap.
WWE.
WWE, sorry.
For the,
World
for the
Wildlife
World
Wildlife Foundation or whatever.
Worldwide Wrestling.
Yeah.
And that, like, everybody wants change, but nobody knows how to do it. And that's kind of the sticky middle.
But
that
I
we're
asked
in
Sankey
again, I
about it
know.
this morning, Caroline, and he kind of, he halfway agreed, and I also complained to him about, wanting to expand the NCAA tournament. I'm not in on that.
Oh, I'm not in on that.
Well,
We're
it's
good.
coming.
We don't
It's
need
coming.
to expand. We're good. We're
Yeah.
good where we are. Hutton, appreciate you for stopping by.
Always a great chat with you guys, Willie. Keep rocking and rolling there in the double gated community, and look forward to seeing you guys around.
I'll be back.
We'll talk to you next week.
All goes well. I'll be back tomorrow with you guys among the ranks.
Hate to do this, but I got to run.
We'll react to what Hutton had to say coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
It's been an offseason of change for the Nashville Predators.
Still going to be a relatively young roster. Johansson's gone, Duchesne's gone.
The Nashville Predators are interested, potentially, in a Brett Pesce.
They did trade Ekholm, Granlund, Tanner Jeannot.
What's next for Smashville's team?
They want to get younger. They're going to have to move a piece.
We have you covered with every move on your home for Smashville. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Help your bets stay hot this summer at Superbook Sports, the most trusted name in sports betting with a direct line to Las Vegas. And right now, you can use the promo code CHASE. That's my name. You can score up to $250 with their first bet bonus, win or lose. Superbook will match your first bet up to $250 with the promo code CHASE. It's that simple. Use my name. Download the Superbook Sports app. Enter that promo code CHASE, and you'll get that $250 courtesy of my friends at Superbook. And they have everything under the sun on the app. You can look at futures bets for college and pro football. It's all right there. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
Hey, it's Jared for PhD Weight Loss. I love the PhD Weight Loss program, and I've blown past the 20-pound mark. And I've done it all while enjoying the summer and traveling on vacations. I love the PhD program because it's simple for me to understand and to activate. And quite frankly, because it works. I feel so much better about myself because I feel in control of my weight, and I get excited when I continue to see my progress. If you're someone who has struggled to lose weight, go online to myphdweightloss.com and check it out for yourself. Learn about the program, the coaching, and the guarantee. If you don't get within 5 pounds of your target weight by the end of your program, PhD will continue to coach you for free until you do. That's PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers organization and fans, online at myphdweightloss.com.
3 days of racing, 3 days of music, one huge weekend event. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix is not just a race or a festival, it's an experience. Multiple music stations with Flo Rida, Vince Neil, Chris Jansen, Gavin DeGraw, and more. Fast cars going over 200 miles an hour. And a family fun zone with inflatables. Sale now. Go to MusicCityGP.com for tickets and get ready to experience Nashville's premier speed and sound event.
Where are we on the lineup?
It's official. Avery is producing Main Street Music Days.
We need to be ready. We're going to have lots of people. What's the status on the new sound engineer?
They need an audio technician to keep things level from sound checks to encores.
Make sure audio from one stage does not compete with another.
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our hiring platform instantly connects you with quality candidates, and you can schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from the Indeed dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, it's John Tesh. You want to know how to get better rates, better coverage, and better service on your home and auto insurance? Work with Zander Insurance. I know it's a big promise, but this team delivers. They've been around for almost 100 years and have earned the privilege of representing dozens of insurance companies so they can shop, compare, and find you the best options available. More options mean more savings, and in many cases, better coverage. But it doesn't stop there. Each year, they review your coverage to make sure your rates stay competitive. Nobody else does that. And when it comes to service, just check out their ratings. Zander is one of the top agencies in the industry, and they earned that spot with their commitment to making sure their clients are taken care of like family. That's what sets them apart. Go to Zander.com for quick online quotes or call 800-356-1780 for that personal touch that you've been missing.
94.9 The Fan is your home for Hit City.
Your Nashville Sounds continue their 6-game series tonight against Jacksonville.
Swing and a miss, strike 3. Sounds win.
Pre-game at 6:20.
On your home of Nashville Sounds baseball. 94.9 The Fan and the Fan app.
Hey, Smashville, this is Sean Henry. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
They're pointing to people who don't really they're in government. They're pointing to people to make up rules and regulations for Nick Saban, who's asking, just show me the rule book. I want to follow have everyone follow the same rules. Nick Saban and Greg Sankey are looking at people that don't know anything what they're trying to regulate and come up with rules for.
And they don't care.
They don't care.
But aside from that, like, why would you? Greg Sankey could get with Tony Petitti with the Big Ten. He's got to have a better relationship with him than he did with Kevin Warren. And they can come up with their own rules to follow if they really want to. And they actually have contact with all these coaches, the administrative, the ADs, the collectives. There's a lot of people that are just grandstanding in order to sway one side instead of the other. And I think that's where we are, and I think Sankey was alluding to that on Monday.
Well, they want Congress to do the dirty work.
Jonathan Hutton joining us this past segment, as he does every Wednesday at noon. Appreciate him, as always, for joining us. And I think that this year, it's different than what we normally hear at an SEC Media Days, right? There's always that one hot button issue, that one hot button question. But really, and it's not as sexy as, a lawsuit or, who's the third best team in the SEC. But I personally do think that the most pressing and important question or topic to be talked about this week is the topic of federal involvement in NIL. And it seems like it's headed down a very, very scary slope that if you don't do anything, then that's scary, that we're currently living in the wild, wild west of NIL. Mm-hmm. But if you do get Congress involved, then you open yourself up to unionization in college sports. Then you open yourself up to players eventually becoming employees of the university. And maybe you don't think that's scary, but I just think that's a completely different college football that we don't want to be part of.
Yeah, I believe people love college football so much because they believe it's sort of like that purity still left. Like, why do we like high school football? Because it's that purity.
Right.
Kids are playing because they enjoy it. Mm-hmm. They love it. The money's not there, even though it's there now with NIL. But the premise is because it's just pure. Guys and girls want to play sports because they love it.
And I have no problem with players getting paid.
Exactly. I don't either. But then you go up to the college ranks, and it's still people love that pure sort of purity of guys and girls playing because they enjoy it. Mm-hmm. It's not a business.
And even though they do get paid, these past couple of years in the NIL world, it's not like that's impacted my viewing on a Saturday afternoon at 2:30 on CBS. It still feels like the same college football. Players are just getting their fair share of the pie, and I'm good with that.
But then if indeed it turns into something, a unionization or Congress, gets involved in all this other stuff, then it becomes professional sports. And then it becomes, the minute a student athlete, I don't care, men's, women's, it doesn't matter, start complaining, people are going to say, they get paid anyway, why y'all complaining? Half of the majority of the world aren't getting the advantages that y'all are getting at these universities, and y'all are getting paid. Why are y'all complaining? I don't want it to become that.
Yeah.
I want it to be a professional world, which is NFL, NBA, and all that other stuff, and then a college world, which it is now. I don't want to see it become more of a professional atmosphere in a sense.
I'm with you.
Now these universities are getting paid like big corporations.
Right.
But it still has not, even with NIL, like you said, even with NIL, it still hasn't, penetrated the sport to a point where we look at it different. Mm-hmm. We sort of take the purity out of it. It's still in the game. And I think that's why so many people love it, because college football is just so much different from the NFL.
Mm-hmm. And it's always inherently going to have that difference.
Exactly.
I always remember a conversation we had with the great Bob Ryan years ago. He pointed this out to me. I guess we all sort of knew it, but, our country is so different than the rest of the world on how they develop their athletes when you get down to it. If you grew up playing soccer in England or hockey in Sweden, you're much more likely to get into a club format where you're not playing for your school. That's sort of a form. That's how we choose to do it. It's a fun thing. You're rooting for your school. You're rooting for a pride. You're playing for your high school. There's a certain amount of honor that goes with that. But as we know, it's not a perfect system. But this is how he used to say, Bob Ryan did, this is how we choose to do it, right? So we're taking, the difficulties, the corruption, the exploitation that goes with that. But I'm with you guys. I still think that there is a lot of admirable parts to the way we do it in our country, and it is in jeopardy of changing a lot if NIL takes over the highest level and it continues to evolve. So I do think we got to be careful with that, because I still think one of the best things about the college environment is these guys, the men and women that are playing, are still kids in a lot of ways. It's a developmental stage. You're still maturing. You shouldn't be considered a professional. And I know people are going to say, well, 18-year-olds are top tennis players and 18-year-olds can jump into the NHL. I get that. But it's a very, very small amount of people that do that, and it's fraught with danger, right? Think of the Dwight Goodens and people that come up and they're talented enough to be professionals at 18, 19, but there's a lot of pitfalls that go with that. And there's a lot to be said about the college environment where you can screw up a little bit. You can be a kid while you're developing and maturing and preparing yourself for the later part of life.
And correct me if y'all think any differently, but I think it's a pretty scary or harrowing realization when Greg Sankey, who Hutton called arguably the most powerful man in college sports, and that's a very fair point. I think that you can make a very fair argument for that. When he says the only way to fix these NIL, he calls them issues, is Congress getting involved. And here we all three are saying, we don't think Congress wants to get involved. That's a pretty scary place in college sports.
I used to laugh. Derek, you've said that, like when Hutton said what he said, I hearken back to some times in the past. I can think of a couple for baseball when the steroids were happening, right? And then there was the whole thing with Roger Clemens in the Mitchell report. But there's some almost comical times where Congress is asking questions of baseball players or other sports people, and it just becomes very obvious that some of the Congress people are different levels of interest in sports, but you get some questions like, what is an RBI or something like that, something crazy where the sports fan is sitting there laughing and going, what is going on? Why are the Congress people in this if they don't know what's going on? But that is a challenge, right? A congressperson can't know everything about everything. And arguably, if it's your job to follow the sports world, you're going to have a lot easier time knowing what the issues are than if you're doing what what a congressperson is supposed to be doing, which is not pay attention to the sports page every day.
No, I mean, to me, Congress has a job to help facilitate things that goes on in the country. This isn't one of those things, I believe. This is a situation where the NCAA governing body took their sweet time and didn't address the problems when they had an opportunity to address it. So now that the horses are out of the barn and you don't have enough manpower to get them all back in, you want to call basically the National Guard. Hey, come and help us with this problem, because we can't. Even though we knew it was coming, even though we could have did something, we chose not to, and we let the horses out. Now we need the National Guard to come and reel them back. I know there are things going over in another country, and we may be at war, and these people may have to get shipped, relocated out, but we need y'all to help us with our minute thing, our small thing. It's big to us, but it's small to the country. Government, Congress, in this situation, they don't need to touch it. This is why. Because the NCAA doesn't want to seem like the bad person now. Well, had you addressed this a long time ago and worked with these student athletes and not be so damn greedy, because that's all it was about, greed. Not being greedy, you wouldn't be in a situation that you're in now. Now you're asking Congress to fix it. The hell with that. You fix it yourself.
Kevin Texan says Congress can't do anything about it, period. If they do, the Supreme Court will stamp that out. Congress can do something about it. Congress does not want to get involved with it. And with the Supreme Court ruling, you said you can't put a cap on the amount of money that college players can make. There are other things that Congress can do that Greg Sankey and other leaders in college sports are asking Congress to do. But I'm with you. Congress doesn't want to get involved. It's college football. Congress has got bigger things.
Yeah.
Bigger
It's
fish
Sankey,
to fry.
Sankey and those people going to them. It's not the other. It's not the government trying to get involved, right? It is Greg Sankey spearheading a group of people asking for Congress's help. That's an interesting twist.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll continue to get your thoughts on that. But coming up next, I just started watching Quarterback on Netflix, and I have some thoughts. We'll get into that coming up next. Hey, tune in for Nashville Sounds Baseball tonight at 6:35 p.m. on 94.9 The Fan. The Sounds take on the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, AAA affiliate of the Miami Marlins. Sounds Baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by 312 Pizza Company, Farm Bureau Health Plans, and Family Leisure. 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Are you always on the go? We've got you covered. Download the Game Nashville app from your app store and listen to us wherever you are.
Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexroad. It's Chase McCabe.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase.
Stupid Comedy.
We are Nashville's best sports talk.
Good station. I listen to it all the time.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, time to tell you once again about Loan Pronto. If you are facing a situation where you need some bills to pay, you need to get some cash to pay off some bills. Those credit card bills, those interest rates are multiplying on you, and you're saying, I need to try a different approach. Well, how about Loan Pronto and the Express Equity line of credit? It just got even faster. So you can use your home's equity. Don't touch your primary mortgage. Go and use the Express Equity line of credit. You can get $50,000, $100,000, even $200,000 in as little as 5 days. And so you can keep that 3% primary mortgage rate intact and then get the money you need to attack those credit card bills. Get it down to zero. Put them in the past and start back where you need to. Don't get killed with those insane interest rates to the credit card companies. So all you got to do is call Loan Pronto and get the Express even faster equity line of credit. 615-499-5780 for Loan Pronto. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
It's the first day of the first grade, and she found a new best friend. It's a laid-back Sunday afternoon you wish would never end.
The homemade taste of Bluebell and good friends gathered round. The good old days are being made right now.
There's no hiding from Bluebell Monster Cookie Dough ice cream. Creamy vanilla ice cream, peanut butter monster cookie dough, brown sugar, candy-coated chocolate, and dark chocolate flavored chunks. A taste so good, you'll need a bigger bowl.
The good old days are being made right now.
The good old days are being made right now.
Look for Bluebell ice cream at Walmart Supercenters and Walmart Neighborhood Markets.
Hey, Tennessee, we're Zen Sports, the new sportsbook in town. We listen to your feedback on our competitors, so we designed Zen Sports just the way you wish. Set favorites, search and sort bets, and earn real cash rewards, saving you time and money with every bet you make. Find the bets you want, not those distracting bets that seem too good to be true but rarely are. Best of all, withdraw your winnings in under 24 hours. So take control of your bets, because with Zen Sports, betting just got better. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 and up and in Tennessee to bet.
The spring menu is here at Kitchen Notes in the Omni Nashville Hotel, featuring their signature cast iron pie with herb roasted chicken, English peas, carrots, potato, simple greens, and a toasted biscuit crumble topping. Or garden succotash with snap peas, black-eyed peas, roasted peppers, sweet corn, tomato, and caramelized onion. Or try the steak fritas with pan-seared ribeye. Kitchen Notes in the Omni Nashville Hotel, open daily till 2 with brunch Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 7 till 2.
When it comes to Chase McCabe,
the Nashville Predators, the Titans, the NBA, college football, talk a little racing.
You get a little bit of everything.
But hey, you know what? We're getting it done.
Join Chase McCabe weekday mornings at 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Hey, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game has your chance to win tickets to Misfits Boxing X Series 008 boxing matches at the Nashville Municipal Auditorium this Saturday. Awfully lengthy little title for this boxing match. Text in keyword boxing, BOXING, to the game text line at 615-737-1025 now to enter. So I finally did it. I made the venture. I started watching Quarterback on Netflix last night. Have either of y'all seen it?
I have not ventured. I've seen it, and I've wanted to click on it, but I'm like, I don't want to. Who want to see Mariota and
Kirk
Baker
Cousins?
Mayfield? Oh, well, I need to watch it now because Kirk Cousins is on there, so I need to watch
Big
it.
Kirk Cousins guy?
He's a wow,
Go
Willy.
Green. Go
Willy,
Green.
did she just say that? Good Lord.
It caught me off guard because never have I ever heard anyone say, oh, Kirk Cousins is on it? I have to watch it.
It's a must watch now.
It's okay.
Uh-huh.
I saw on Twitter, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing I've ever watched. Thank you to Netflix for gracing my presence with this. I thought it was okay.
Now, what is it just a behind the scenes look at what they go through practice before a game and stuff like that?
Basically.
Okay.
So it's Marcus Mariota, Patrick Mahomes, and Kirk Cousins. And it stitches all three of their lives. And I do like the idea that it was three completely different quarterbacks in three totally different situations. You know, Patrick Mahomes riding the highest of highs, Marcus Mariota trying to break his way back into a starting position, and Kirk Cousins kind of being that veteran that's kind of in the middle. So I like that they did that. It shows three very different perspectives. I think the production value is really good. You know, they gather a ton of game footage, a ton of footage from the Colin Cowherd national radio broadcast, which adds a lot more kind of behind-the-scenes look and a whole lot more perspective of where each of those individual quarterbacks were at that time. So the production value is good. The story itself, it's fine. You know, it follows three quarterbacks at practice leading up to games, their reaction to the games. I found myself going on my phone in the middle of it because it wasn't very intriguing.
Yeah. So does it give
I was right there with you, Caroline.
Does it give a behind the scenes of like the family life and stuff like that?
Yeah, you see like their family life. They have footage from practice. Like there's footage from like Patrick Mahomes' birthday party and like Kirk Cousins at his house. I will say though, Kirk Cousins is so much more likable to me now.
Oh, okay.
He's so humble. There was a scene where he burned a hole in his hoodie, and he was so upset about it. I'm like, Kirk, it's an Adidas black hoodie. You can buy another one. You're a multimillionaire, brother. You can buy another one.
Hey, that probably was his favorite one.
Maybe it was. So who am I to say? But and you know, his wife was talking about their life, and they live in like a beautiful but very humble home, and they have a very humble life. So it made me appreciate him and like him so much more than I did. Not that I had any reason to not like him. I just, you know, he's just Kirk Cousins.
Exactly.
But it's fine. Like, I don't think I'd recommend it, honestly. Nick,
Caroline,
you didn't love it either?
I mean, it was okay. I wouldn't say it wasn't great. I mean, it was pretty good. Don't get me wrong. It was good, but the thing I liked most about it was the Mariota cut scenes of his diet and his struggle with Atlanta and kind of finding the game for, you know, passion of the game again. I thought that was pretty neat coming from a Titans fan perspective. Kirk Cousins, big Kirk Cousins advocate after watching that. And then, I don't know, I was going to ask you about the storylines. Did you like for them jumping from storyline to storyline, or just if they should have just gone with just one per episode?
It was a little jarring because it jumps very suddenly from the Kirk Cousins story to the Patrick Mahomes story to the Mariota story. But I also think in terms of a timeline, that's makes the most sense because they go throughout the season. And they like week 1, week 2, week 3, and like what each quarterback was doing in that certain time. So I don't think that it would have made sense to go through all of Patrick Mahomes in this past season and all of Mariota in this past season. But it was a little bit jarring the way that they jumped so suddenly from one quarterback to another.
So is it more than just one series? Is it like multiple episodes?
It's like an 8-episode season, and it was just renewed for season 2.
Okay.
One thing that strikes me with things like this is when Hard Knocks first came out, it was a relatively new genre. But think about where it's gone since then, with all sports trying to sort of tap in to that. Sometimes Hard Knocks can get a little old. It's the same themes every year. We still love it because we're hungry for the next football season, and it still works to a degree, but it takes something kind of special to really jump at you. And with all these other production companies that now are jumping in, I think about the Predators thing that NHL Network did when the team went to Prague. That was cool. So if it's your team, you're extra intrigued. But if you're trying to get the masses, you really have to have a good angle. It's got to be really well done, or else you get the reaction you have, Caroline. It's kind of like, I've seen this before. Nothing big.
I've
but
seen
think about
this
how many
before,
of
I've been
these
through
things
this
we have
before.
now, as opposed to when Hard Knocks was the thing, right? You were like, oh my gosh, they have this behind the scenes. This is pretty cool. Now it's just kind of old hat. So what's the
It
next
was revolutionary almost. But I feel like even with Hard Knocks, it's kind of lost its luster a bit, at least to me. Because I feel like so many coaches and programs and even players now, they don't want to be part of it. At least with
there's
the
an awareness there's awareness now that players have that maybe they didn't have when Hard Knocks first came on the scene. So maybe you did get a little bit more natural stuff. Now I think there's a sense by all the athletes when something like this is going on, you kind of know the drill. So you know sort of how to stay out of the pitfalls. You kind of have a vision of, hey, this might be on TV. How is this going to look if I say this or that, or I do this or do that?
And I think that the more and more time over time, the more the things that people have said on Hard Knocks gets nitpicked, that they're so much more cautious. And that's not fun to watch whenever a player or a coach is actively not trying to give you anything juicy. And I do think that it's that I'm speaking from a place of privilege, that I do get to go to training camps, and I do get to see a little bit more behind the scenes than maybe an average fan who is not in this business does. But to me, it was just, and it was better since those were voluntary involvements with quarterback versus with Hard Knocks. I mean, they're pulling teeth trying to get Hard Knocks, trying to get a team to be involved with Hard Knocks. So it was better with voluntary involvement in the quarterback documentary, but yeah, it's okay.
I think players are more inclined to allow you to get behind the scenes rather than a coach.
Yeah.
Coaches want to keep that curtain closed. They don't want to give you no visual of what's going on behind the scenes. Players are more open because why? It's their brand, and they want to put their brand out there. So I'm pretty sure they didn't have to twist Kirk Cousins, Mahomes, and Mariota's arm to get on this.
Yeah, probably not. And it is good FaceTime for them. And
exactly.
It's interesting behind the scenes to see what their lives are like on a day-to-day basis. That we don't get. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Coming up next, Hutton said something earlier, and it was something that's been reiterated on Twitter, on social media, from Titans fans and non-Titans fans alike. But Mike Vrabel has said, don't you worry about it. And we will explain coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Nashville is growing, but we remember our roots here.
The fairgrounds, my family and I have so many memories there. It is full of history, it is full of culture, and it is full of Nashville.
There are some folks who want to tear down our historic fairground speedway.
When you do that, you lose part of your story.
Don't tear it down, make it better.
I'm not necessarily a racing fan, but it's a part of the fabric of the neighborhood.
When you lose something, guess what? It doesn't come back.
Don't take away my history.
Let's make sure we don't lose another piece of what makes our city so special.
Check, check. You might already know about the Acura MDX. V6 engine, seat 7. We have an announcement. We swapped that engine with a specially made 3-liter turbo V6, race-tuned the steering and suspension, and for the first time, added Type S performance to an SUV. So we're just gonna drop this right here. The Acura MDX and first ever MDX Type S. Acura, precision crafted performance.
Experience the thrill at Gary Force Acura, proud sponsor of the Nashville Predators. TennesseeAcura.com.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack.
You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Being value conscious and getting the most for your money is so important these days, and that's why it's more important than ever to shop at Genesis Diamonds, the undisputed value leader.
Part of the education at Genesis Diamonds is we explain to you how we travel the world and purchase our diamonds, how we buy in bulk, we pay cash for our diamonds so we can save every possible percent to save you money on your diamonds.
Genesis Diamonds Vice President David Cooper.
There are no middlemen, there are no other wholesalers or dealers, so we cut out all of those extra added markups and pass those savings on to you.
When you combine that unmatched value with a totally no-pressure shopping experience, you know you're in the right place.
Because we do not work on commission, our sole purpose is to make sure you get exactly what you want. There's nothing in it for us personally, whether you spend $1,000 or $100,000.
That's why at Genesis, people often end up spending less than they had budgeted.
Our goal is to purely present you with options so you can choose exactly what you want.
The value you want, the experience you deserve. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Nashville's Best Deals is a great place to save cash fast. Get up to half off or more on dining and entertainment at thegamenashville.com/deals. Check back often for new featured deals and save money now at thegamenashville.com/deals.
Hey, it's John Tesh. You want to know how to get better rates, better coverage, and better service on your home and auto insurance? Work with Zander Insurance. I know it's a big promise, but this team delivers. They've been around for almost 100 years and have earned the privilege of representing dozens of insurance companies so they can shop, compare, and find you the best options available. More options mean more savings, and in many cases, better coverage. But it doesn't stop there. Each year, they review your coverage to make sure your rates stay competitive. Nobody else does that. And when it comes to service, just check out their ratings. Zander is one of the top agencies in the industry, and they earned that spot with their commitment to making sure their clients are taken care of like family. That's what sets them apart. Go to Zander.com for quick online quotes or call 800-356-1780 for that personal touch that you've been missing.
Now, your Game Center update.
This is Nick Frazier. The Arizona Diamondbacks TV broadcast will be available blackout-free the rest of the season due to the Diamond Sports Group's bankruptcy. In other news, Northwestern University is set to begin 2 reviews of the Northwestern Athletic Department. Yesterday at SEC Media Days, Paul Feinbaum joined Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase and talked about the flaws of the NIL and college athletics.
This is not a new issue. Everybody's been complaining about it. And the reason why they didn't do anything because they were afraid of going to court. I sat with the new president of the NCAA a couple weeks ago in Washington, and he got up in front of this organization. I'd spoken right before him, and he said, the NCAA blew it on NIL. I'm like going, you're the head of the NCAA. But at the time, he was the governor of Massachusetts. They can't fix it.
News in the NFL, the Tennessee Titans outside linebacker Rashad Weaver was scheduled to begin his trial on a misdemeanor assault charge. The charge has been dropped according to the Tennessean. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
79-52 Vanderbilt.
And I think he's going to coach up by Cheryl.
You're going to see more moves.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willy Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personality of all time.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. We are live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, and we are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook. Download their app today and use promo code THEGAME. It is day 3 at SEC Media Days. We're down here at the Grand Hyatt in downtown Nashville. Our SEC Media coverage is brought to you by Volunteer Hose and Gasket and Mercedes-Benz of Music City. So Mike Vrabel was on Bussin' with the Boys this past week. Before we get into that, I wanted to touch on this text that gave me a little bit of a giggle. Wes and Hermitage text in because we were talking about the documentary Quarterback on Netflix, how I just started watching it last night, and I think it's okay. It really made a very fair point that Hard Knocks kind of set the tone and created this new genre of sports documentaries behind the scenes. Wes and Hermitage texts in, says, I'm almost willing to put all my money and life savings on the fact that I'm sure Will Levis is dying to be on Hard Knocks. And that really bothers me, and I'm sure that's part of the reason why Vrabel will never do it as long as he's on our team. That's so true.
No, don't find another reason to dislike Will Levis. Okay, no,
I
stop
don't dislike him, but he probably would love to be on Hard Knocks. He'd probably love the screen time.
Oh, man. I mean, I'm sure there are some guys. I'm sure there are a handful of guys that would love to be on Hard Knocks. I'm sure that, Jeffrey Simmons would love to be on Hard Knocks.
Really?
Kevin Byard would love to be on Hard Knocks.
I think they would hate it.
No, they wouldn't hate because it brings more eyes to them. I think it would benefit Tennessee if they were on Hard Knocks. Because we've always forever been sort of that franchise that it was like an afterthought.
Right.
Nashville, Tennessee was like an afterthought. The Titans were like an afterthought. No matter how good we were, it was like, well, but this team is. So I think they would, benefit from having Hard Knocks from a national standpoint, I think.
Do you think it would ever happen?
I'm not going to say never, but the likelihood of it happening.
1 in a billion?
Nah. Well, what is it? For it to happen, it would be minus. What would it be? Minus?
Plus, probably?
Yeah, plus.
You think it's likely or unlikely?
Likely that it happened.
Oh, you think it's likely?
No, unlikely. Unlikely
so it would be
that
a
it
plus.
Happened. So it would be plus what? 500, I would say.
I would say it's close to plus 10,000. Under Mike Vrabel's dead body, would there be cameras in Titans training camp? But I think Will Levis would love it. He's going to make his own Instagram Reels series. Will Levis, Hard Knocks edition.
There'll be the cameras, and then there'll be Will Levis's cameras simultaneously with Hard Knocks cameras.
His iPhone on his tripod.
Oh, man.
Along with the Hard Knocks crew. Well, thanks to Wes and Hermitage for the giggle. But I want to get into this because, D-Mase, you say that the Titans are always an afterthought, and that's so true. Even in the DeAndre Hopkins sweepstakes, were the Titans an afterthought? Even when the Titans signed D-Hop, it was, wow, what a loss for the Patriots, not a, wow, what can D-Hop be in this Titan system? The national media just doesn't like to talk about the Tennessee Titans. But the conversation has been, as far as D-Hop and the Titans are concerned, is, well, is D-Hop just the next Andre Johnson, Carl Pickens, Julio Jones, wide receiver late in his career that's just going to Tennessee for a payday, who's going to end his career there, and it's going to be a lackluster couple of years in a Titans uniform? I've heard that a lot, and I understand the fan worry or concern. The fans have been burned enough with future Hall of Famers coming to Tennessee late in their careers. But Mike Vrabel was on Bussin' with the Boys earlier this week, and he said that's not something that he's worried about. This was Mike Vrabel.
He's obviously a stud player, but was there any hesitation given some of the high-profile free agents you've signed in the past that didn't necessarily work out? And then do you have to basically de-recruit yourself from that thinking so that way you can probably
I don't think whatever happened in the past with another player is going to apply to this particular player. And if things come up, we'll have to, work through them. But, we wouldn't have signed him or wanted to sign him if we were confident that he'd help us.
Vrabel with Bussin' with the Boys, and obviously you can say that about anything. You could say that about Julio. Hey, if we wouldn't sign him if we thought there was going to be a problem, and that's true. Titans aren't signing any player that they think they're not going to get anything out of. But what did you think about what Mike Vrabel had to say?
This is different. The only success that the Titans have been able to sort of get out, or production they've been able to get out of a veteran wide receiver, is Nate Washington, and I keep on forgetting Rashad Matthews. Those are the two veteran guys that the Titans brought in that actually was worth, the money that they gave him, that came in and produced. Nate Washington produced. He was a 1,000-yard receiver. He was, he was the guy in their pass game that they looked to each and every week. Rashad Matthews, he started to really flourish here in Nashville after leaving Miami. So you're talking about two guys that people tend to forget about because they weren't high-profile names, but those two guys were very productive when they came here to Nashville. Now, Julio Jones, Andre Johnson, Carl Pickens, Eric Decker, it's different from D-Hop from this standpoint. Those guys, Randy Moss, those guys were clearly
past their
prime. They were
prime.
Clearly past their prime. There was nothing left. There was nothing more left for them to give, especially not with the role that the Tennessee Titans wanted them to play. Now, if they wanted them to come in and be a third guy, then it probably would have worked out. But that's not why they brought him in. They brought him in to be either a 1A or 1B. And they were so far in their career, it just didn't work out. I think with D-Hop, I hope is a little bit different. He's not basically at the end of his career. I do believe if he wants to play at the 37, if he stays healthy, I think he can. Now his play will decline some, but I think he can. He's still at that place where he can give you some high production. They couldn't. And then those guys, to me, they were just so injury riddled, with the exception of Randy Moss. Those other guys had dealt with major injuries or were coming off of injuries, Robert Woods and all that stuff. So you couldn't, for them to be productive, you had to look at their past and their injury history. So them coming into this offense, why would you expect more out of them when you saw previously, Randy Moss, for instance, when he was with Minnesota? I mean, after he left New England, his career started to go downhill. Yeah. So why would you bring him in to be a number one?
Same thing with Julio. I think we all saw the writing on the wall with Julio.
Absolutely. So this is different, I believe. But what is the same is all of those guys at one point in their career were high-volume guys that got the ball targeted to them at least 10 times a game. D-Hop is no different. Now, can he handle if he's not targeted 10 to 12 times? That's what I'm wondering.
What do you think?
There's a couple ways I look at it with what Vrabel said there, because on one hand, there's some sort of suggestion, right? There's a belief. This is a fan perspective sometimes, is that it's almost like a curse or a jinx. Oh, man, the Titans haven't done very well with grabbing those 30-something, once great wide receivers. And so they shouldn't do it again. That's not really how the world works. That's not how Mike Vrabel should think, right? He should think the way he said it. Each guy is different, right? You try to use your knowledge base and you move on. Mike Vrabel had nothing to do with any of those guys except for really Julio Jones, right? I'm trying to think of any other example of a great wide receiver they brought in under the Randy Moss, Carl Pickens theme. Like, most of that is just ancient history. That's Titans history, but that's not Mike Vrabel's history, right? So unless you believe there's a curse or a jinx on this, Mike Vrabel should be looking at ways to improve his team. The other part of it is, percentage-wise, when you get down to it, the likelihood of a bounce back by a 30-something-year-old wide receiver is relatively low, right? So you're kind of rolling the dice every time you take a guy that old. That's part of the reason why it didn't work out for some of these guys. So I think if you look at it rationally, then there's no reason why they shouldn't have done this. If especially with the knowledge that Tim Kelly and Mike Vrabel have of DeAndre Hopkins, they know him. I don't think they knew Julio Jones as well. It's fair to say, right? They had never had any experience with Julio Jones. Nobody had on the staff, but they have history with DeAndre Hopkins, and hopefully that will help them understand him.
to any Titans fans with concerns about the D-Hop signing, I think that should ease that a good bit. That Mike Vrabel and Tim Kelly have history with DeAndre Hopkins. They know him. They know how to use DeAndre Hopkins in this system.
Yeah, they do. But again, I think what we all need to understand and realize truly that how does it affect the guy when he's been, because this is a real thing, and people you got to talk about it. How do you go from being a high volume guy to not being a high volume guy? That is something that is overlooked.
Is that something that you went through?
That is something I didn't have to go through it in in Baltimore, not at least until like the last year or two, because they had brought Anquan in and they brought some other receivers in. So my targets went down, and Anquan was more the one, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
And I was sort of phasing out. At that time I was 36 years old. I was sort of phasing out. So I was able to accept that role because I knew where I was in my career. Now, if I was 30 years old and that happened, I don't think I would have been able to. It wouldn't have set with me well.
You knew it was coming.
Exactly. I knew that was coming. And that's what they're going to have to try to manage. Vrabel's going to say all the great things. Tim Kelly is. We're going to try to give him the ball. We're going to give him the ball. But once game time comes and once defenses start doing what they need to do, how is he going to react? Because they're going to coach. Kelly, they're going to coach. They want to win football games. How is he going to react when Traylon is the number one, like flat-out number one guy, and he's being targeted? They're looking at him to make the big plays, him to make the red zone plays, and you are the guy that, okay, we'll give it to you just because you're Hopkins. We'll try to throw you the ball 6 or 7 times a game. How do you adjust going from 10 times, 12 times to 6 times possibly? That's a big adjustment that people are just not talking about. People think, oh, he's with Tim Kelly, he'll be fine. No, it's not that way. I don't care how much he knows him. Matter of fact, it may, because he knows him so well and he's seen what he was before and he's seen what he is now, he may be thinking, we can't target him that much. We just can't.
And also, you've also got Treylon Burks in the mix that you're going to have to feed the ball to because Treylon Burks is your future.
Listen, I'm going to tell you this flat out. If Treylon Burks isn't your number, if D-Hop is D-Hop. You use him to me in the red zone because he's a threat, a legitimate threat, third down. But if Treylon and Chig are not your top 2 guys, you got a problem. We got a problem.
Chig needs to have more yards, targets, receptions.
He needs to be one of those, because I look at Chig and I see Delaney Walker, a little bit better because he's younger. And this is more of a pass-happy league. Chig and Treylon needs to be the future of this team, and it needs to start this upcoming season, to me.
Well, let's continue the conversation coming up next. Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase is brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet. Joe Tassatore, ESPN College Football, will join us in 15 minutes. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Every day we are live and local.
I think Vanderbilt is steady, disciplined.
It's been so long since Tennessee's gotten out of the first weekend.
And your source for Nashville sports.
I don't mind going to another team. You want to know what the coaching staff's going to look like?
We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Attention all fire and safety line experts. Middle Tennessee's fastest growing fire protection company is looking for experienced service technicians, designers, and sprinkler system experts like you. Tired of working for a large corporate employer? Work for a company where you're more than just a number. Jarrett Fire Protection is owned and operated by Nashville natives and wants to invite you to grow with their amazing team.
Hi, I'm Jason Jarrett, owner of Jarrett Companies. I'm looking to hire experienced sprinkler experts and will offer a sign-on bonus of up to $5,000 $1,000 for certified professionals. In addition to our great benefits that include a 401k match, PTO, and top pay with annual bonuses, we will also provide you with the top-of-the-line tools, trucks, and equipment that you need to grow your career. Our customer base is large and business is booming with many opportunities for advancement. Give us a call or go online to jarrettfire.com and apply today to become a member of our family and protect our community. That's JARRETT fire.com. Jarrett Companies, where we are above and beyond industry standards.
On July 22nd in Nashville, Tennessee, 4 men will compete in one boxing ring. Only one winner will be declared. Who will be the last man standing in the first ever Survivor Tag? KSI's Misfits Boxing is coming to Nashville. That's right, Misfits and DAZN are bringing Misfits 008 to the Nashville Municipal Auditorium, including some of the biggest names in the crossover and celebrity boxing space. The night will be packed full of action, including the first ever tag team boxing match in the U.S. Fighters on the night include gun expert Brandon Herrera, fan favorite B-Dave, political activist Alex Stein, chart-topping rapper Swarms, lightweight champion Dean the Great, former BKFC champion Alan Belcher versus Hasim Rahman Jr., and many, many more. Misfits 008 tickets are available now, starting at $20 from Ticketmaster.com.
The team at Mercedes-Benz of Music City have done it again. Here's Edwin Vickery to explain.
4-time recipient of Best of the Best. Less than 10% of the dealers in the country receive this award. How did you do it? We say culture eats strategy for lunch, because we can strategize all we want, but unless you have the right culture and chemistry in the dealership, it will not work.
Live the dream at Mercedes-Benz of Music City, mbofmc.com.
Hey, it's Jared. Want to tell you about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Hiller is keeping you chilling all summer with special deals to keep you relaxed and happy this summer. Tackle those necessary home system replacements this month to take advantage of these special deals. When you purchase a select new HVAC system, you'll get 2 Yeti Trailhead camping chairs, a Yeti Panga 28L waterproof backpack, a Yeti Tundra 75, and 2 Yeti tumblers for free. And get special freebies on Yeti products with every new whole home generator or tankless water heater purchase. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Anyone want to tell me what happened? Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to theGameNashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
Having some fun in the midday.
Okay, that's really fun.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It's a good source of energy because it's live.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Did you talk to him about blocking? We've seen the Houston tape.
I can see in the team meeting now.
Yeah. I mean, I think that.
What are we doing here?
Again, you get what you emphasize. You get what you emphasize.
Yeah.
And I think that, I'm confident that he'll do what we ask him to do. And certainly that's not going to be his number one job is the block. It's not going to be Traylen's number one job. It's not going to be Kyle's number one job. So, we have to do a better job. I can coach speak you to death, but we got to protect the quarterback so that we can, throw the ball efficiently. You don't have to throw it 50 times to win, but you got to throw it efficient.
That was Mike Vrabel on Bussin' with the Boys. Just the conversation of DeAndre Hopkins and blocking. Just Mike Vrabel and receivers blocking is just so classic Mike Vrabel.
Well, he had to tell the truth because the person that's asking the questions was in the meeting rooms when all of that went down.
Oh, totally.
So he had to sort of like, that's not his number one job.
Coming here to block? Are you crazy?
And that's why, listen, that's why when all of that happened, I said he's not in good graces with Vrabel. Because anytime a coach, Julio, anytime a coach is complaining about a receiver blocking, that means
and not just any receiver.
Exactly.
Julio Jones.
I can see if it was Kyle Phillips that he was complaining about, or Traylon Burks.
Cody Hollister.
Exactly, because you're a rookie or you're trying to make the team. So we got to make sure we stay on you. But a guy like Julio Jones, You don't complain about the man's blocking. You know what he is. You know what he does. You just want him to get the football. My, have the tone has changed with Vrabel. He's not here to block. That's not his number one thing. Well, damn it, I could have told you that 10 years ago that his number one thing ain't to block. We pay you to catch footballs. If we want a blocking receiver, we'll go get one. We're paying you to catch the football.
It does kind of prove that there is a much different vibe between Julio and DeAndre.
Exactly.
I like when he said, you get what you emphasize. So, maybe if it's emphasized, you can get at least, a passable. That's all you have to do. But like he said, he's not coming there to be a blocker first and foremost. It is interesting because they do emphasize everybody blocks for a guy like Derrick Henry. So that will be interesting. I'm more interested in the practice part of it. I don't know if that was covered. I haven't listened to the whole Bussin' with the Boys, but I do think that is important to Mike Vrabel. And like we said, there's a history. They know him. So they have to understand what he's been like, and they have to envision what it's going to be like in a new place, especially with Derek saying, maybe a slightly different role than he was in 2019, where he's not the main man.
Well, I think, judging by the way Coach answered that question, I think those are some of the things they talked about because, if you have a history with an individual and they like to do certain things, but you in your position, you think, hey, listen, that's not what I usually do. I usually want my guys to do said thing, but I know bringing you in is a little bit different, so I'm going to talk to you, right off the jump about it. Like, okay, listen, we're going to need you to practice majority of the time. I'm going to monitor you, give you some days off here and there, especially in camp.
Right.
But it can't be this thing where you just walk into the trainer's office and say, I don't feel like practicing today because my foot hurt. And I don't know about it until the trainer come and tell me, you need to talk to me so we can sort of form a plan moving forward. I don't need to hear it from the trainer. You come directly to me and, I'll work around it. So I think they have talked about it. Now, how does that look during the season? I don't know. I think more so during training camp. You probably scale it down for him some. But in the season, damn, you only practice 3 days anyway. So how much time do you need off?
Yeah, and I'll always go back to, D-Hop doesn't practice. I know D-Hop doesn't practice. We all know D-Hop doesn't practice. So Mike Vrabel knows that DeAndre Hopkins doesn't practice. So if they're going to sign him and pursue him and be so quote-unquote aggressive, then it's clearly not as big of a problem as we might think it is, or what he brings is much more valuable than the concern of him not practicing.
What did Bill Parcells say, Willie? Listen, when Lawrence Taylor is asleep, I'm going to tap Lawrence Taylor and say, wake up. But that third string guy is asleep, I'm cutting him. That's what I'm doing.
Right.
And that's
different
the same
rules
way
for
with
different
DeAndre.
people.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And like Mike Vrabel says, no one person is bigger than the team.
Yeah,
and
right.
I do believe that that's the way that he likes to operate. But let's be honest, the way that Tajay Spears is being treated is probably a little bit different than the way that Derrick Henry is being treated.
Exactly.
And that's life. That's fine.
That's the way it is.
That's the way it is.
The pecking order.
Exactly. You got to earn
But there's a way to
Exactly.
do that. There's a way to do that, right? There's that's an art form of a coach, right? Being able to tune in. Because either way, you can have that, but if you look phony about it and you're not communicating with everybody, you have to have everybody understanding how that works. It's a fine line sometimes.
Joe Tessitore, ESPN College Football, will join us coming up next as part of our SEC Media Days coverage, sponsored by Volunteer Hose and Gasket and Mercedes-Benz of Music City. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Hopkins, touchdown. The Tennessee Titans have signed wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins.
They needed somebody that they could count on.
Even with DeAndre Hopkins in the receiver room, they're not very deep.
What can the talented wideout bring to the team?
It alleviates pressure from Traylon Burks, forces defenses to pay attention.
He and Mike Vrabel have a very good relationship.
The receiving group has a chance to actually be pretty good.
Keep it locked to Nashville's best Titans talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, looking forward to our next interview. Joe Tessitore will join us here on 102.5 The Game. And let me tell you real quickly about F&M Bank. Remember, that's our big segment on Friday to end the week, our Take It to the Bank segment. F&M Bank has so many great things going. We have so much fun with them, and they are really getting the word out. Of course, they just dedicated the new arena. They're the title sponsor out in Clarksville, F&M Bank Arena, home of Austin Peay and a lot of hockey action. It's a big growing brand, and their motto is banking made easy on purpose. F&M Bank has a lot of examples of this. They just want to simplify things for you. If you want to save a little bit of money, it's a great tool called Smart Swipe that they have emphasizing right now. Find out more about it. Think about it. If you have a debit card from F&M, if you sign up for the Smart Swipe program, you buy, let's say, just a burger and fries, and that's $7.15. Well, they'll round it up to $8, and that extra 85 cents goes into savings. So you can do that several times a week, and over time, you're going to save a few bucks. Smart, sound way to do it. They've got a lot of different things that go along with that. So find out about F&M Bank and some of their ways that they make your banking a lot easy, regardless of where you are in life and what your banking needs are. Find out where your nearest branch is. They've got 20 locations in our listening area and up into southern Kentucky. Just go to myfmbank.com. That's myfmbank.com. Tell them you heard it from me here on 102.5 The Game, and it's F&M Bank. We'll take it to the bank on Friday. Member FDIC.
Built upon a solid foundation of cast iron and steel, the Kubota LO1 series is part of our tractor lineup, rated #1 in durability and owner experience. They feature powerful Kubota diesel engines and easy operation. The durable Kubota LO1 series. Talk to your local Kubota dealer today to schedule a demo. Go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
Visit Coleman Tractor, your local Kubota dealer in Clarksville, Nashville, Paris, and White House.
Does this sound familiar? Did your agent provide excellent entertainment with their TikTok videos and constant social media posts about themselves while completely ignoring that you hired them to sell your home? Did they tell you how wonderful they were? How many followers they had? They probably never sold your home, but hey, they did get 15 likes on their selfies. Hashtag my clients love me. Don't let that happen to you. Google TJ Anderson Homes and see why the only likes we care about are our clients loving our service. Ask us about our prepay with TJ option and how it can save you thousands. TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. Office number 615-432-2919.
Are you drowning in credit card debt? Want to get cash out of your home's equity? Loan Pronto can do it now in less than a week. Hey, Willy Donick here. That's right. Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit just got even faster. You can get $50,000, $100,000, even $200,000 in as little as 5 days. You don't even have to touch your primary mortgage. You can keep that 3% rate intact. Get just the money you need and pay off all those credit cards or get that home improvement project started. With this revolutionary program, you can access up to 90% of your home's value, and in most cases, there's no appraisal. Stop paying insane interest rates to the credit card companies and get tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in as little as 5 days. Call Loan Pronto now for the even faster Equity Express line. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix is back in Nashville August 4th through 6th and is a must-see experience that has something for everyone to enjoy. 102.5 The Game and 94.9 The Fan has all your coverage leading to the race, including driver interviews with Chase McCabe, ticket giveaways, and much more.
94.9 The Fan is your home for Hit City.
Your Nashville Sounds continue their 6-game series tonight against Jacksonville. Swing and a miss, strike 3. Sounds win. Pre-game at 6:20.
On your home of Nashville Sounds baseball. 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app.
Hey Nashville, this is Vanderbilt football head coach Clark Lee. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app. We're live out here at SEC Media Days, Day 3, Grand Hyatt, downtown Nashville. And joining the party is Joe Tess, ESPN ABC College Football. Appreciate you for hopping in.
It's so nice to spend time with you guys. Could you turn that up just a little bit? I am so finicky when it comes to the volume of my headsets here. How would you like to work with me on the road, huh?
Easy peasy. Easy peasy. Well, I want to kick things off with this because it's Tennessee Day tomorrow. We're going to hear from Josh Heupel tomorrow. Was last year a one-off, or is this
No.
just a preview of what's to come?
Yeah, I think, first of all, offensively, no, because the stats prove it out. His system proves it. He has unlocked one of the keys to having success in college football offensively. You know, we were fortunate enough, our ABC, ESPN crew, to spend the Orange Bowl lead up with him and call the Orange Bowl. And no, I don't believe it was a one-off, especially offensively. And then, obviously, you get recruiting momentum to fill in some things defensively. Are you going to have these same magical moments? I don't know. You can beat Alabama, like you got to play your A-plus game. They've got some things have to bounce your way. But I think the offense is there to stay. That's a philosophy. That's a scheme. That's a plan, and he executes it very well. I'm super high on Joe Milton.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask next.
So, yeah, I am. I think, you know, he's got one of these interesting careers, and I love guys that get a second chance. I think all American fans love the redemption story in the second act in sports because we all sit there and want a second chance on a lot of things in our life. And I think his attitude and his humility and gratitude and his sticking with something and being focused, you feel good about it. A guy who was the starting quarterback gives way to a guy who unexpectedly becomes the offensive player of the year. And then when he gets his chance, he goes out there in front of the whole nation, primetime Orange Bowl, and does what he did, and now is primed to have a big year. And obviously what's coming behind him with Nico is you have to be very bullish on the future of Tennessee for a lot of years to come, especially offensively.
And when we were going through NFL draft time, a lot of
Yes.
the conversation about Hendon Hooker, Cedric Tillman, Jalen Hyatt was, are they really good, or was Josh Heupel's system just set up for any offensive player to be successful? What do you think?
Well, I think you're going to maximize the stats you can get, but they were really, really good. It would be my take. And I think, listen, college football has always had that. When you generationally you look at different offenses through the years, whether it's going all the way back to David Klingler and Andre Ware in Houston, and what was that with the run and shoot, and are they really good, or is it a system, and other systems throughout the years. But those were talented players that maxed out statistically because of the Heupel offense. But no, they're great players.
Now, can Georgia find themselves? I'm not going to ask you, can they three-peat, but can they find themselves back in the championship game? Because I think
the regular season schedule is very advantageous for them.
Absolutely,
extremely so.
But I think a lot of people didn't really appreciate what Stidham did for that team. I mean, not Stidham, but Stetson did for that team. This is a guy that really, in this last 2 years, he showed up big when he needed to, but he didn't make those crucial mistakes that sometimes happen in games.
Right, and I think that was his point of refinement, especially last year. Georgia's ridiculously loaded. The recruiting over the recent years is at a level where you look through every part of the team and you just sit back and say, well, that's absurd, that's ridiculous. The tight end room, and even now here comes the next freshman who's going to be great. And you just lost a tight end that's going to go off to have a long NFL career, and you still have the best one in the country. And then you have Delp, and now you got lucky. Your offensive line is healthy and absurdly loaded with 5 stars and massive pro prospect bodies. Your wide receiver room is already good, and then you add 2 elite transfers who are the best wide receivers at their respective schools in the SEC. The defensive line just reloads with the next crop. The linebackers, you have a first-team All-SEC guys. You have an edge defender who's probably going to be the best edge guy in the league this year in Williams. The defensive backfield is loaded with pro prospects, especially at the safety position and the hybrid position. You have a lockdown corner, and you just lost a lockdown corner to the NFL. You just replace him with another one. Your special teams is. Then you got elite coaching with both co-defensive coordinators plus your head coach, who's one of the best defensive masterminds in college football in the last generation. Your offensive coordinator was already, you lose one to the NFL. The next one you steps up was your old offensive coordinator, who was just in the building for the last 2 years. So he knows the personnel, he knows the scheme, the nomenclature doesn't change. So I see absolutely no drop-off with Georgia. They may, in fact, be a better team than they were last year, even with Stetson Bennett. Are there going to be some critical third and longs that, yes, you would like to have the more veteran guy in there? But the upside, if Carson Beck is what he looks to be, they are going to be just fine.
Now, is this – I'm listening to you, and you're stating all these obvious things.
Yes.
Is this Alabama 2.0?
I'm stating facts.
Yeah, you're
right?
stating facts.
Facts.
Is this Alabama 2.0? Because this is what we were saying about Alabama.
In terms of dynasty and in terms
of dynasty and players.
Yeah, but just look at the talent, the hoarding of talent. Georgia was always a sleeping giant. Georgia was always capable of being this, and now you have a head coach in his absolute prime of his career, where he's energized to recruit at this level, and he's doing it. And now you see, if you gather that much talent and you have that level of elite coaching, this is what it looks like.
Now, do you prescribe to, in regards to Alabama, now that I brought up Alabama, that this season for Nick Saban is sort of this legacy-defining season?
No, his legacy is already defined as probably the greatest college football coach of all time, because to do what he's done in this era, where it's not as easy to do it, it's already defined. Nick Saban is what he is. And I know my colleague, Mr. Feinbaum, made some headlines and opened eyes this week with a statement that I think played into what you just said. But no, I don't think we're defining Nick Saban and his legacy based on this year. And they're going to be just fine. Although I think you have 3 rosters in the West that look very similar. And I know one of them is going to come with people, looking a little askew at A&M and having a lot of doubts. But roster-wise, if you remove the labels and some of the doubts and the way people view things, roster-wise, those are 3 very similar rosters.
Now, with that being said, you brought up A&M, the Petrino hire.
Love it.
Do you think this was like Jimbo saying, I got to do something?
Well, I think he's answering some critics and concerns and self-evaluation, and I think it's a move that allows him to be the best head coach he can be, and puts Petrino in a position to really flex his muscle the way he likes to. And I think Jimbo, I just think of what they've been as coaches in the last 15 to 20 years and knowing the 3 men, but I think Jimbo and what he understands of quarterback development, passing game, overall running and coordinating an offense, Petrino and what he does with quarterbacks and makes simplifying things and getting statistical production, and then Steve Addazio and what he does with offensive line development and offensive line scheme, and when he's got the power run game working well, whether it was at Florida or producing a Heisman finalist at Boston College. Those 3 guys coordinating the same offense is a great combination of coaching.
Joe Tessitore, ESPN College Football, is with us. You mentioned it. There's 3 rosters in particular in the West that seem kind of up in the air, but I think this SEC as a whole, there are so many questions. I mean, there's only 2 teams in the league that are returning a quarterback and an offensive coordinator. But which question marks surrounding the SEC are you most intrigued to find the answer to?
Well, I think I think this is going to sound strange. I think it's always hard to really point a finger at the bottom of the SEC West, because there are teams lingering in the bottom that could easily be up to the top, will pull off an upset or 2, and there are teams somewhere in the middle or the top that bottom out because of something and end up down in the basement. I always think that division is very difficult to say the middle and bottom of. I'm curious to see Kentucky's offense this year. I think they could be really, really good with Leary and with the emergence of the young receivers. And then I always think people miss on certain programs. I mean, everybody's down in the dumps on Florida because, listen, there are still guys who can play some ball at Florida in good coaching. And they have a lot of recruiting momentum, by the way. So the middle and bottom, how off are we with that? We know the top. We know Georgia and Bama and LSU and what Tennessee is capable of and what the AM roster is capable of. But the middle and bottom, I'm always curious to see how it plays out.
Joe Tess, ESPN College Football. Appreciate you for hanging out. Have a good rest of the week.
Good to hang with you. Keep up the great work, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you. We'll react to what Joe Tess had to say there. Coming up next, Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
When it comes to Nashville sports.
Hear that? That's Jeff Anderson. He's that guy in your neighborhood that's always making improvements to his house, his car, his yard. On your street, it's about keeping up with the Andersons. One thing you don't know is Jeff's tools are from Harbor Freight. Tools at great prices. That circular saw right there, you wouldn't believe the deal he got. Just think, when you're keeping up with the Andersons, you're saving money. Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight.
Happy Monday to everyone out there. This is D-Mase for Zen Sports, the new sports book in Tennessee that brings the cash back to Nashville. Or should I just say Cashville? Zen Sports is revolutionizing the way you earn sports betting rewards. On Zen Sports, what you see is what you get. And with their cashback reward program, you get a lot of cash. I hear that money machine. I know you do as well. For a welcome bonus, earn an unlimited 5% cash back on your betting volume for your first 15 days when you sign up with the code D-Mason. That's D-M-A-S-O-N. That's right. Unlimited 5% cash back. Keep betting and keep earning with up to 3% cash back on your betting volume every month after that. And check this out. Refer friends to earn a percentage of their betting volume as cash rewards. So the people you bring in, you even get cash off of them as well. Zen Sports is bringing the cash back to Tennessee. So if you are betting big on sports, then you want to bet on Zen Sports. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older in Tennessee to bet. Gambling problems, call 1-800-889-9789. Zen Sports. Betting just got better.
20 years ago, when Genesis Diamonds came to Nashville, this was one of the most expensive cities in America for diamond jewelry. Our radical approach and no middleman pricing changed that forever. And now we're doing it again, this time with lab-grown diamonds. We were shocked to find out what the other mall stores and the other big radio advertisers were charging. They sell their platinum 4-carat VS2 lab-grown earrings for $15,720. We sell them for $6,900. Their 3.08 carat lab-grown round diamond with G-Color VS2 clarity is $10,045. We sell it for $5,900. Looks like they might be going back to the old ways. If they're charging this much on lab-grown diamonds, kind of makes you wonder what else they're selling at the same outrageous markup. Nashville, we are not going backwards. At Genesis Diamonds, our non-commissioned trusted advisors are here to give you all the information with details you can trust and prices you can count on. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Hose and Belting Specialties in Murfreesboro is your local source for hydraulic, air, water, and chemical hoses, along with conveyor, timing, and metric belt needs. They stock metric fittings for both air and hydraulic applications. Hose and Belting Specialties stocks Parker hydraulic hoses and fittings, Goodyear Conti-Tech industrial hoses, and V-belts, just to name a few of their lines. For any of your industrial needs, call 615-895-HOSE, 615-895-HOSE.
Hey, are you seeking relief? Maybe you just want to enhance your day or night. Did you know there are legal THC products available right here in Tennessee? Yeah, really. You can have legal THC products shipped directly to the comfort of your home. Yes, comfort and cannabis is only a website away. Visit greentreescompany.com. That's Green Trees with a Z, and change your life today.
Hey, it's Jared. Want to tell you about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Hiller is keeping you chilling all summer with special deals to keep you relaxed and happy this summer. Tackle those necessary home system replacements this month to take advantage of these special deals. When you purchase a select new HVAC system, you'll get 2 Yeti Trailhead camping chairs, a Yeti Panga 28L waterproof backpack, a Yeti Tundra 75, and 2 Yeti tumblers for free. And get special freebies on Yeti products with every new whole home generator or tankless water heater purchase. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Sometimes it's good to be loud.
This is the NFL.
Especially when you're Jared Stillman.
That's where we are.
He's not afraid to say what's on his mind each and every day.
That was embarrassing. I don't care if you're a rookie. That was embarrassing.
Stillman and Company. Weekdays at 2 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Having some fun in the midday.
Yeah, it's awesome.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Well, look, I think what you do is, this idea, and I think Le'Veon Bell was actually on the record this week kind of talking about, when he sat out that season. You don't get that money back. That was a horrible business decision. Whoever was advising him and was kind of co-signing that decision with him, assuming that there was somebody doing it, he'll never get that money back. I mean, he probably cost himself about $15 million that he'll never make. So, these guys can talk about sitting out, but the reality is with the new collective bargaining agreement, you've been franchise tagged. You don't really have any leverage to do it, and it is financially painful for you to do. So what do? I actually think if you're the Giants or the Raiders or any of these teams, look, you understand the guy's going to be unhappy, but they're going to be making, over $10 million this year. I think there's a very public, kind of argument that you can win when it's like, look, guys making, over $10 million this season to play football, like show up and play. And I think then you just deal with addressing the position when that guy leaves after the season. I mean, I think, and oh, by the way, if the franchise number is not going way, way up, tag him again. Like, that's the other side of it.
There was Tim Hasselbeck yesterday on our show on the running back market, and I want to get into probably the craziest thing that I've read in a long time about the running back market. But first, a little bit of a breaking news. Nick.
Yes, we do have some breaking news. To Jordan Schultz, per Jordan Schultz, sources, the Titans are bringing in a former Jets offensive tackle, George Fant, for a workout Saturday. There's a good chance that he signs, assuming all goes well, starting right tackle Nicholas Petit-Frere in his suspension for his first 6 games of the season.
Okay, so the Titans are bringing in George Fant for a workout, which means the Titans are signing George Fant, which means the Titans are bringing in a tackle for probably the first 6 games of the season, which means to me that Peter Skoronski will not be playing tackle this season, and that makes me sad.
No, he won't. I don't think he's going to be playing tackle no time soon. Not that he can't play tackle. I think if they believe, they're hoping it works out with Dillard, where they can keep Skoronski right at guard. I think they believe that's the place where he's going to maximize his best potential at the guard position.
So George Fant has played in 8 games this past season, but he's been pretty consistent throughout his careers with Seattle for the first 3 years. Played 14, 16, 16 games in 3 seasons respectively, 14 games, 15 games. So he's played a majority of the season throughout the entirety of his career. 8 games last year with the Jets. I don't know if that was an injury situation. I don't know. But great. So the Titans are adding a little bit of tackle depth, and I'm cool with it. I'm sad that we won't get Peter Skoronski. I thought that this was the perfect opportunity to move Andre Dillard over to right tackle, keep Peter Skoronski at left tackle, and then if all goes well, then PT can battle it out.
My man PT.
PT, Nicholas Petit-Frere, as Chris Sanders has affectionately nicknamed Nicholas Petit-Frere. PT. All right, cool. So George Fant coming in for a workout. Titans adding some tackle depth. I cannot be mad about offensive line depth after I was demanding that this team add offensive tackle depth this past season. But I do want to get into probably the craziest comparison, probably the craziest thing that I have heard in quite some time. I was scrolling through Twitter this morning. And so, just to update everyone at this situation, there's been a big, stink about running backs. Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, Tony Pollard, none of them signed their franchise tag. Dalvin Cook released earlier in the season. So a lot of running backs, Derrick Henry included, Chris McCaffrey, have all come out and said, hey, this is not fair. Le'Veon Bell took to Twitter. Of course, the face of not signing your franchise tag, sitting out for a season. And D-Mase, you and I were talking about this earlier.
The face of miscalculation.
Gave up $15 million and really stopped the momentum of his career. Le'Veon Bell tweeted, and this was yesterday morning. Disney, a long time ago, parentheses 1998, taught me a valuable lesson about sticking together. Go watch A Bug's Life. It'll put into perspective the running back market, which hearing A Bug's Life and the running back market in the same sentence is absolutely
Even though I
hilarious
did
to
like
me.
A Bug's Life.
It's a good movie.
Yes.
But just not what I would expect.
Absolutely.
The running backs are the ants. I'm Flick. I took all the damage from the grasshoppers, the owners. At the time, no one could see my vision or what I was standing for, but all I was doing was just preparing to go against the grasshoppers, the owners in this analogy. But as a lone inventive ant, running back, I obviously couldn't beat the grasshoppers owners alone. In 2017 and 2018, I was the lone ant. I was Flick. It was only me. Fast forward 6 years later, now you have multiple ants trying to join the fight against the grasshoppers. This league continues every single day to surprise me. I like to think I don't get surprised very often, but Le'Veon Bell tweeting about A Bug's Life in comparison to the running back market, that surprises me.
Well, I mean, he has a point.
He does have a point.
He does have a point.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, he's not wrong in what he said. It's just unfortunate for him that, from a financial standpoint, he had to suffer. for it.
But that was
and it
his
still
choice.
it was his choice, but it still hasn't gotten better. That's the thing. Even though you went through that, Le'Veon Bell, it was your choice to not sign the deal that Pittsburgh was giving you at that time, which I think was it might have been the richest running back deal for that time, that period. You chose not to sign it, but it didn't change what the running backs are going through now. They're going through the same exact thing now. It's just more of them going through it.
Because the running back position, since Le'Veon Bell sat out that season, hasn't increased. The market for running backs, the usage of running backs hasn't increased.
No.
So I can't expect the market to go with it either.
No, it's unfortunate because I just think anybody that tells you that, there shouldn't be a premium on that position, you're wrong. I think it's coming from people that never played the position. I can't sit there and say there shouldn't be a premium on the running back position. I can't say that because I've never played it, but I've seen what they went through. I see how much of the offense is put on them.
They don't have easy jobs.
Yeah, until they run them in the dirt, and then it's okay. We don't need you anymore.
It's a catch-22.
Exactly.
Because you are used constantly, and you're bruised, and you've got tread on those tires. And if you choose not to put tread on your tires, then you don't have value. You put tread on those tires, then your value is automatically shortened. So it's a tough kind of double-edged sword. You got to give it your all for all that you can.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. If I'm a running back coming out now, I don't want to get drafted in the first round. I just don't. As much prestige the first round is, and it truly is, because not everybody can get drafted in the first round. But for a running back, this is the only position. For a running back, getting drafted in the first round is bad for you.
Why?
Because now you're on the hook for longer. Like, you can't re-up after 3 years. If I'm drafted in the first round, that's an automatic, 4 or 5 year deal. And then not to mention the franchise tags they can put on you 2 years in a row.
Right.
Well, if I'm drafted outside the first round, then it's only 3 years. And yeah, they may franchise me, though that's 5 years. And now I can sort of possibly, if I continue to, if I don't have a major injury, I can get a sizable deal. Or I can reach that sizable deal earlier than that first round guy can.
Interesting point. But also on the other side, if you're not drafted in the first round, you're not guaranteed that first round cash.
Yeah, but like you said, it's a catch-22. Do you want to? I know you want the cash up front, and you want the prestige of being the first round pick. But then once you go to redo your deal, they're going to hold you to that. They're going to hold you to being a first rounder. And then they're going to tag you
and tag
you again.
It's like Tony Pollard. I mean, he was a 4th round draft pick.
Absolutely.
But now he's sitting in this financial situation where he didn't want to sign his tag.
Exactly.
And now they're kind of in limbo. So.
But they all will sign their tags. All of them will sign their tags before the season starts. They would be fools not to sign that tag, because you're essentially giving money back to the organization that you want more money from.
And what are you going to do? Not play?
Yeah, what are you going to do? Not play? You might as well play.
Le'Veon Bell did that. He learned the hard way.
Yep. So, cautionary tale. Learn from Le'Veon Bell.
That's going to do it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. It is Tennessee Day tomorrow, so we'll hear from Josh Heupel at the podium. Still